It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy and Christina and Jason are all here. So am I. Lots to talk about. The reviews are in for the new MacBook Neo, all the details, and a closer look at the colors. Can you tell them apart? We'll also talk about the new Apple monitors and why you should under no circumstance consider spending your money on them, and those crazy new TikTok marketing videos from Apple. All that and more coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 1015, recorded Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. Who shot Apple Intelligence? It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show we cover the latest Apple news. Yes, I'm back from Space City, USA. Thank you so much to Micah Sargent for holding down the fort. Jason Snell is back from New York, New York.
Yes, sir.
Where he was seeing all the new stuff.
I had an experience, and
did you?
It didn't freak me out. I just had a regular old Apple experience. Although there was a moment where I was chatting with Phil Schiller, as you do, and then John Turnus and Greg Joswiak walked over.
Wow.
And I thought, what is going to happen to me now? Am I being cornered? And the answer is that Trudy, who's the head of PR, came over and she's the cops. She broke it up.
She shut him away.
Why are you talking to this guy? Get out of here.
I have had that hand on my shoulder when I'm talking to a friend, like before the demo area opens. Tim Cooks comes over to talk to the friend, and I stand my ground because I'm thinking, well, look, I'm part of this conversation. This is the interloper. And then you feel that hand on your shoulder and that tug. Hey, Andy, you should be one of the first people in the demo room, and I'm going to arrange that for you. I'm like,
That's cool. That's Andy Anako, ladies and gentlemen, who did not get that conversation, but he's here anyway. Nobody's hand on his shoulder today.
Exactly. I'm all alone, as I am in life.
All alone in his home.
Thanks for
And that's the wonderful Christina Warren, who sure gives us all
a kiss.
A kiss. Mm-hmm. Because she's a Harry Styles fan.
I am. What can I say?
Good to see all of you. So Jason, for those of us in the unwashed masses who did not get to go to London, Shanghai, or New York, how was it?
It was so when they do an event like the iPhone event in Cupertino at the Steve Jobs Theater, you go into the theater and you used to see people on stage. Now they just play a video. And then you come out into a big hands-on area with all the products. What they did in New York, and I assume in the other venues, is they took an old, in this case, an old warehouse in Chelsea, and they staged it. And basically there was an area where we watched the very short video introducing the MacBook Neo, which had not yet been announced yet. I think they released it on their website after we had seen it, because I was texting people who hadn't gotten the news yet, right as it was happening. And then when the video stopped playing, this very short video, they basically said, go behind the screen and there's a hands-on area. And it's very much like the kind of giant hands-on area you would find in Cupertino, where they had the MacBook Neo, but they also had the iPad Air M4 that they announced. They had the new MacBook Pro. They had the Pro displays. So the iPhone 17e. So they had all the new products with hands-on, and that's why they invite people to be there in person, is so that you can actually see the colors, type on the keyboards, do all the things that you stare into the XDR brightness, all of those things, and have a personal kind of experience with it. Plus, yes, chat with PR people and executives and other things and ask them questions and get a briefing and all of those other things too. So that's basically what it was, is that it is a giant hands-on area. And they had, it was a lot of people. They've done a lot of New York events where it's been a small group that's been invited to this building that they own in Tribeca. And then when I got there to Chelsea, to the warehouse, I realized, this is more like an Apple event, like a big Apple event. The difference being there wasn't like a hour-long video to play, but it was the hands-on part of it, which is honestly the most important part, because that's when you get a chance to look at this stuff first and, get it in your hands, more than a week before it releases to the general public. So you can start learning about it, asking them questions about what the difference between processor cores, I'm sure we'll talk about that, is in these new M5s, and the design reasons behind the Neo and all of that kind of stuff. So basically an Apple media event without the long TV show at the beginning.
Nice, actually. Yeah. All the stuff had been announced except for the Neo.
Right. The Neo was announced at that moment.
Right.
The rest of the stuff was announced the 2 previous days. I think that's right. I think they saved the
order
Neo
we thought it would be, actually, because the Neo was really the new thing. We knew the 17 would come.
And that was why they saved it for last, and they wanted to give it its own spotlight on that day. But I literally, on Tuesday at 6 a.m., I was at the San Francisco airport on a briefing about the new stuff that they'd already announced about the MacBook Pro and the new M5 Pro and Max chips and all of that. And then it was like, after that was over, I got on a plane and
got on a plane.
New York. So it was a whirlwind.
And then got to see that stuff pick up your review units. And
and then that's the funny thing about it is people are like, oh, are you going to linger in New York or whatever? And it's like, well, no, I'm not going to linger in New York because I know, like, literally, I got home Wednesday night and Thursday morning, all of my review units came under embargo
in the mail,
and then I worked all weekend, so I didn't have time to linger. I had to.
The embargoes have been lifted for all of the things.
For all. Yeah.
Okay. Your review was in the Wall Street Journal.
No, my review of David Pogue's book was in the Wall Street Journal.
Oh, okay. Not of the Neo book.
Not of the Neo.
We'll hold the David Pogue thing. Although the good news is David will be joining us at the end of the month. He was very excited. He used to be a regular on MacBreak Weekly. So
David's great.
I bribed him with pictures, bribed or blackmailed. It's up to you, with pictures from the cruise back in 2004, I think it was.
I mean, we were all on a bunch of those cruises.
Yeah, Macmania.
Yep.
Yeah. Kids, do you have any questions for Mr. Snell that you'd like to ask him about the?
I know Christina has hot takes about the MacBook Neo. So.
Well, I do, and they've evolved. But I will obviously, like, you're the one who's had the hands-on time. You're the one who's been able to review it. I did have a question, I guess, kind of generally about the colors, because that has been a thing, because I haven't been able to see any of them in person, obviously. Like you showed it off, I think, kind of at the beginning. Like, it looks like it's kind of a lime, citrusy lime kind of color. It's not really a yellow. But I was curious about, like, the pink most specifically. Like, is that like a proper pink? Because the problem with the anodized stuff, like, Apple overexposes, as they should, in all the press materials. So the colors look a lot poppier and brighter than they really are. But the orange notwithstanding, and that's a really bright color, and that they had to dye the heck out of it. But the laptop colors, other than the rose gold MacBook from 10 years ago, they haven't really had any that have, I think, what I would call, like, a really sustained color. So I was just kind of curious, like, what your take was, like, having seen them all in person, because it didn't look like the lighting was great in any of the hands-on rooms. And a few YouTubers have been able to do some, like, unboxing, I think, of some of the stuff, but I haven't been able to look at that super well. So since you've actually been able to, like, hold, one of them, like, in sunlight and other stuff, what's your take on the color situation?
It's true. It's really hard too, because really, until you see it with your own eyes and your own light, it's very hard to judge it. What I would say is, I think we may have overstated Apple's renewed commitment to bright colors.
Right.
It is absolutely the most color forward Mac laptop that they've done since the original iBook, right? Since then, it's mostly been really muted.
That's a high bar.
Yeah.
But like, the Apple is still very conservative when it comes to colors. Even when it's being bold, it's not that bold. So, like, silver is silver. I would say that the indigo is really, it's a different shade and it's a little lighter, but it's so familiar if you've used a midnight MacBook Air. It's in the ballpark. It is your default dark laptop if you prefer a dark laptop to a light silver laptop. It gave me all the midnight vibes, even though it's a little bit different. And that leaves us with blush and citrus. So blush, look, I am mildly, but I definitely am red-green colorblind. And so
I didn't know that.
So when I saw the blush
what was that? Is that thunder?
I don't know, somebody taking the trash out?
I'm sorry, I muted my mic too late. It is now warm enough that the people who like to go up and down the coast on motorcycles are going up and down the coast on motorcycles.
Interesting.
I apologize. I'll be faster on the mute.
So
this is one of the reasons why I prefer to go to the library generally. Go ahead.
That's fine.
So when I saw the blush, saying that I'll tell you, so I had a girlfriend in college who I asked why she always wore gray socks, and she said they're pink. And I was like, oh, see, that's a problem. But so in the hands-on area, I looked down at one of the Neos and I thought to myself, oh, that's pink. So it's not just a trace of pink because I could see it, right?
Yeah.
But it is also not bright pink. It is pinky silver. So like, I know we're threading the needle here, but Christina, what I would say to you about the pink is it's probably not as pink as you wish it would be, but it's also, I would say, not as restrained as, like, remember the sky blue MacBook Air that they introduced last year? That is silver.
It's silver. It's silver.
I can see blue, and I couldn't see that blue except in certain angles and certain light. So the citrus is by far the most bold of all the colors. Even so, it's not like tennis ball yellow. It is this yellow green. It is, I took a picture, you can go to sixcolors.com and see, I took a picture of it with a lemon and a citrus tree. And you can see that it is not going to hold up to that lemon, but it is, I would say, a brighter than like a gold. It is a bright gold, yellowy greeny gold. I think citrus is a good name for it.
True to the color?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. That's sunlight, direct sunlight in the afternoon in my front yard with a lemon.
Green.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It can, so depending on the light, and this is the trick with all these anodized products that are metallic, it really depends on context and the angle of light. Sometimes the sky blue MacBook actually does look blue, but most of the time it doesn't. And in this case, it is not all yellow. There's a yellow tone and a green tone, and then it is more saturated. So it stands out. Like, you will never mistake this for any other Mac laptop.
It's kind of ugly if that's the color.
It is. Yeah. It is. I think it's cute. Honestly, I think it's nice. But the thing is, again, even this is more restrained than you might expect. This is not a cosmic orange iPhone. And like, look, I applaud Apple because what they're doing is they are trying to do some different things to see if they can appeal to a different audience, because this whole product is about appealing to a different audience. And I want them to succeed because I would like to see them offer color options, right? And not make everything like all you can do is boring. They'll always offer a boring option, right? People who like boring computer colors, do not worry. They're never going to not offer you silver and a dark something or other. Like, they're never going to not do that. But if we want them to do a brighter color, it's going to come down, I think, to citrus and blush even to see how it goes. But like, it's so it's fun, but let's not get overboard. I think we were all expecting neon iPods at this point, and that is not what we got.
And besides, I think the trend right now is we used to live in a wonderland where you could get a bright purple like plastic cover for a cover case, which would suffocate your device and take 3 years off the life. And now people just cover it with, people who like Flash will cover it with stickers anyway. I've got a big David Bowie sticker on my MacBook. I'm sorry for the rumbling. What I want to know is that, like, if I had a pre-release one, I would not be out of the room before I would be trying to really put the hurt on that A18 processor. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you try really hard
before you go on to that, wait, I want to finish the colors. Then we can talk about performance and what's the guts of it. But let's finish the colors. We done with the colors?
How long does this show go? Like 4 or 5 hours? Sure, we got all the time in the world.
I want to make sure so everybody understands. I guess most people go to the Apple Store if they can and look at it before they buy it.
That's the best choice. Choice.
Because not everybody can. What's interesting is the colors are sold out pretty much, but the gray is not. The silver is not. People want color.
I think so. I mean, this is the
I hope they're
question.
not going to be disappointed.
I will say, I think the iBook taught Apple a lesson that I wish they maybe hadn't learned so well, which is, I think Apple believes that a laptop is a functional piece of machinery, and and unlike your computer, you take it out in the world with you to all sorts of contexts, business meetings, at the office, in a cafe, whatever. I think they got a lot of pushback from iBook buyers that they felt like they didn't want to stand out, and that's why when they redid the iBook, it came in white, and since then it's been white, black, silver, dark gray. Like they have not gone back to colors. I think because they're concerned that people don't actually want their laptop to be colorful. We will find out, I think. But I think there's a lot of desire for people to show off a little more of their personality, and maybe the lessons that we learned in, what was that, 2000, 1999. I mean, maybe people have changed too a little bit, and the culture has changed, and we're less afraid to show our personality with a computer in a cafe or something in 2026. We'll find out. But I think that is that's the question. Also, I think this laptop is going to be bought by totally different people who buy MacBook Airs and certainly MacBook Pros. And so we don't know what their behavior is going to be and how it lines up with somebody who might buy an Air or a Pro.
Yeah, I feel like the problem is more like it's so many different SKUs, and they know that there's going to be two of them that are going to have their fans but are not going to sell very well. So let's be conservative and at least give ourselves the best chance of not having to figure out, okay, we got to source another 600,000 Citrus ones because we didn't make enough of those. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, this is like, and we'll talk more about it as Jason talks about his review and the guts and some of the trade-offs and whatnot. But I've been kind of going back and forth, like, am I going to buy one of these things to just use as a thin client or not? And to be clear, I don't need this. I have no reason to buy this, but like, but I want a pink MacBook. My rose gold MacBook is 10 years old. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked in, like 6 years, like that was one of the poorest supported laptops Apple ever had. But that's also kind of my fear a little bit with this first Neo, but I'll save that. But part of my reason for being like, okay, because part of me I'm like, okay, I could just wait a year or whenever they do the refresh. We don't know if they'll be doing yearly refreshes or not. I tend to think they might, just because they will have binned, 18 chips for this year, that they might, be able to want to repurpose in future iterations. So I could see this being an annualized update. But to Andy's point, they like to switch these colors out, and they don't always make the right bets in terms of what they're going to be buying. Like, that you have to have kind of your silver and maybe like your darker color, right? And that's what your institutions will buy. But for the fun colors, they can rotate them in and out so quickly. So like, there's a part of me that has FOMO where I'm like, do I have to just freaking buy this just so I can have like the pink MacBook? I don't know.
I had a pink case on my MacBook Air.
Oh yeah, Oh no, honestly, that's not a bad idea. And honestly, Andy brought up a good point too. People put stickers on them. You can get skins from dbrand and things like that. But it's not the same. It's not the same as having the color matched, keyboard and all that stuff.
It's also the case that if you have that, people know you have the Neo, right? You'll have a newer. I mean, that's what the orange was all about.
It will not be mistaken for any other Mac laptop.
All right. Well, that's color, but let's talk about the guts, because that's maybe a cause for concern a little bit. This is a A19?
18 Pro. So it's from the iPhone 16 Pro, but binned, it has one fewer GPU than the iPhone 16 Pro, which does mean, since it's a bin chip from more than a year ago, it's kind of free, which is probably why Apple built. Apple had a cheap computer on it.
One of those Rubbermaid buckets of them, and just said, "Let's make some of these." Yeah.
So basically, management is telling TSMC, "Boy, this new Neo is a big hit. So obviously, we want the highest yields possible, but maybe not the highest yields possible, because we need some crummy A18s."
From a couple of years back, that Apple actually had a very sweetheart deal with TSMC. Not that they would have that anymore now that TSMC is in such high demand, but at the time, TSMC paid for the failures on
the first 3nm process. That was the deal they made. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe these really are free.
I doubt that, but to Jason's point, I mean, I think that they already paid for them. They probably had to rerun them again. What else are you going to do? You just disable the core that's not working. That's what they do with the series now. They are using the binned versions of the, I guess, the 17 chip in the 17E, or I guess the 19 chip, whatever version we're on. But this does give me hope. I'm hoping that maybe this will be an annual upgrade, because they're still going to have binned.
Oh yeah, they'll have free chips every year
exactly.
from last time.
Yeah,
what about now? The other thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. What that would mean? What?
That would mean the next year it would have 12 gigs of RAM instead of 8 gigs of RAM.
Well, see, that's okay.
17
so
Pro
you're getting to my
much better
question.
Machine.
So there are two SKUs, but the SKUs are storage, right?
Storage and the Touch ID button.
And the Touch ID. Otherwise, they're identical. You get 256 or 512, is that right?
Yeah, they couldn't spend the extra 50 cents to put in the Touch ID sensor.
Yeah, that's
differentiation.
Oh no, I know that's why it is.
Is there a technical?
That's there.
There's no technical reason they couldn't have Touch ID.
I don't think so.
$100 more, you can have it. I can't imagine life without Touch ID.
I know. It's also security.
Plus,
it's a non-clicky. It's a physically moving touchpad, which is interesting.
Yeah, especially for a cheaper one. Like I'm sure that the mechanical buttons are rated for the life of the product, but life's mishaps, dusts, and
I think it'd be fine.
Given that this is going to be a lot for kids and students, they tend to be a little bit more rough, and so I think that the breakability is. I think it's going to increase breakability, but not so much to make someone say, you know what, I'm not going to buy my kid a $600 laptop. I'm going to buy my kid an $1,100 laptop.
Right.
It's not that big, but at least it's a notable thing. I don't think it's a big
something. Deal. But we didn't even have the glass touchpads. I think the first one we had that was with the original MacBook, wasn't it? Right. In 2015.
Yeah, so it's
this keyboard and trackpad give strong first generation iPad Pro Magic Keyboard vibes, right? Where it
that's
is
probably what it is.
It is right.
Also
so it's not a hinged diving board trackpad. It depresses equally all the way around, so it's kind of a floating with a metal underneath. I think it's probably pretty reliable and hard to destroy. And then the keyboard is a Magic Keyboard. So I think it's very, very familiar. And I did a lot of work. Now, I think the modern iPad Pro Magic Keyboard actually has a haptic, but the old one didn't. And it was perfectly good. So Apple's gotten good at that.
It was $350. It should have been perfectly good.
Yeah, exactly. It was practically half the cost of this thing. So, yeah.
So the chip that's in it can only handle 8 gigs of RAM?
Yeah, that's what it's made with. And that's how they do it. It's a phone chip.
It's a whole package. It's a whole package.
Yeah, there's no choice. I've seen, it's funny, I've seen some criticism of this that comes down to things that it just shows how we think of computers as different from phones. The people are like, I can't believe they didn't put 12 or 16 gigs of memory in. And it's like, the chip has the memory on it, and it's 8. Because that's what they made for the iPhone. And next year's chip would, if they go to the next year iPhone chip, it'll have 12 because that's what's baked into it. But it's baked into it. We still don't think of computers as having chips that have all of this stuff baked into it. But these chips have that baked in. That's just how they are made.
Is that enough? 8 gigs?
I mean, this is the question about this laptop is it enough? I would say yes. And I would say yes for a couple reasons. One
you were running Logic on it.
It was only a couple years ago where the base model Macs came with 8 gigs. And we all complained.
It was 2 years ago. It was not good enough then, though. It wasn't.
And this is the thing. It's good enough for who? And what I would say is Mac OS's swap is good. Its multitasking is good. Apple made a point, I think this says something about what they're worried about, of having their demo machines and their demos have lots of apps open at once, and then they would like swipe an expose between them and stuff to say, see, it can work. And it can work. Is it slower? Or are there apps that take huge amounts of RAM that are going to just fail on this thing? Yeah, but again, it's a $600 computer, and those are probably not the things that you should be doing on here. But it is very functional for what I kept saying in my review is computery stuff. Yeah. Like I'm using email, I'm writing things in a text editor, I'm browsing, I'm doing all that stuff. And this is the point that I wanted to make, because I think beyond the price tag, the most important thing about this product is that it's a Mac. It's not a baby Mac. It's not a broken Mac. It's not a half Mac. It's not a Mac that doesn't do a bunch of things that Macs do. It's just a Mac. I can run Logic on it because I edited podcasts in Logic on chips way less powerful than the A18 Pro, and it did fine. So, but I'm not making music with 50 tracks. I'm not doing that kind of stuff. I'm doing a little podcast editing. But and it takes me back a little bit to the old days, because really, back in the old days, it was very much like the cheaper computers were just slower. It's not like they didn't do stuff. It's just they did it slower. And that's what this is. The storage is slower. It's going to have to swap. It is. It's quite a bit slower even than an Air.
It's so slow. It's like the slowest storage I think they've shipped in, or from the benchmarks
in an Apple Silicon Mac.
Is it eMMC? Yeah. What is it? Is it an SSD?
But again,
eMMC?
Again, for the use profile, I'm not sure that it matters because you can do anything with it, which I do think is an important point that Apple was concerned about, is people are going to think this was like not really a Mac. It was like a Chromebook, or it was like, I saw one person speculate that they thought that maybe it would only run apps from the App Store or something like that. No, it's a Mac. You can do Homebrew on it. You can run Xcode on it. Don't do that, but you could. And you could run Logic on it or Final Cut. Don't do that, but you could. And it would just, you would do
slow.
what all of us who had the 11-inch MacBook Air had to deal with in the 2010s, which is like, oh, it's not that fast, but you deal with it. So it is a Mac. It just has all of these limits.
Well, and looking at your benchmarks, it runs actually pretty well. Runs like a M1 MacBook Air, better in some single core.
It's an M1 when it comes to GPU or multi-threaded. If you're just riding kind of max performance on a single core, it's more like an M3, between M3 and M4, because it's a more modern core. It's like an M. It's because it essentially
it's faster
is
than my
M4
M2
core.
MacBook Air that I'm using right now. So
at that,
but
and that's, I think, from Apple's perspective, the people who are using this computer are probably, that's going to give you enough of a lift that it's not going to feel unreasonable. And I used it. I mean, I literally used this computer all weekend, and I wrote my review on it, and I wrote a bunch of other stuff on it. And again, writing, web browser, did a little bit of podcast editing and Logic just to see, and like, it works. It's fine.
Perfect for Christina's thin client.
If you push it hard, you will know that it's a $600 laptop. There's no doubt about it.
I think my only concern, because I think you make great points, and I think that I don't like the 8 gigabytes. I know why it's there. I realize that that's a technical, limitation of the chip that they chose and decisions that a completely different team at Apple made for a phone. When they chose that phone chip and made those decisions, they didn't know it was going to go in a laptop. If they had, they might have made different decisions. Well, maybe they did. I don't know.
They might have known.
They
Remember, Apple used to say 8 gigs is on an Apple Silicon.
Which is a lie. It was a lie then. It's a lie now. It's a lie. Well, the reason I say they might not have known is because my experience talking to people over the years at Apple has been that the different divisions don't often talk to one another. So they might have known that was the case. But
I've had people in the chip group say that when they design the chip, they know exactly every computer it's going to go in.
Okay.
Now, did that happen here, or was this a little more of a late entry? I don't know. Because it's got 2 USB ports, and literally no iPhone has ever had 2 USB ports. There is one school of thought, and I don't know if this is true or not, that might have actually been put in there in the A16 Pro, so they could do 2 ports on a laptop.
Not the
they might have done it, but
no.
I get your point. I get your point, Christina, which is it is at least at some point they're basically like, well, if we're going to do this product, we're going to have to use the bin chip from the previous year's iPhone.
Do you think?
And that meant that if they launched it this year, it was going to have 8 gigs of RAM.
I guess my question, though, or I guess my comment more is, it's a question and a comment, is I can take these trade-offs. I can understand that 8 gigabytes is what we are stuck with, even if I personally don't think it's enough. And people who say that it is, I think that it can be fine, but I don't think it's enough when you look at, is this going to be a laptop that you can use for 5 years? Because that's the problem.
Yeah.
The MacBook, the M1 MacBook Air that came out almost 6 years ago, that was a machine that if you bought the base variant, even the 128 gigabyte version, which they sold for some of the education things, you could still use very well today. And in some ways, it will be better than the product that this is replacing in the Walmart lineup. I'm just going to be honest. I do not think that this product as it exists, and I'm not saying it has to be, but I do not think that if you spend $500 or $600 on this laptop, that this is going to be a laptop that you will be able to use in 5 years. And that, to me, I think is something that we should at least recognize, because it might be good enough to do these things now. RAM shortage is going to continue, but processor requirements, web browsers, all kinds of other things are not going to continue to slow down. And I just
AI,
don't want people
exactly that.
I don't want people to be in a position where they're like, 2 years from now they can't use this laptop. You know,
that was one of my biggest notes too. I couldn't agree with you more. That it's because, and particularly thinking about, we're kind of like in sort of an easy mode right now because Apple is not going to be able to ship like locally running LLMs for the next couple of years. But at some point within the lifespan of this machine, I'm wondering 3 years from now if there's going to be OS 28, 29, whatever, that is like, oh God, yes, it'll be like running like ProLogic. Like, okay, you can use these fundamental OS features on if you have a 3-year-old Neo, but you definitely wouldn't want to. It's an interesting schism that we're facing right now, because this is a situation in the MacBook lineup that I don't think we've had since that 10-inch MacBook that we talked about a moment ago, where the cheapest base model entry level MacBook is now underpowered enough that a lot of people might buy it and think, wow, why is this so dog slow? Why did I buy this? Whereas before you would buy, again, even if you walked out of Walmart with a $700 M1 MacBook Air, it would be fine for almost anything you did, and it would be good enough at even like Lightroom and Photoshop that it would convince you, you know what, I think my next MacBook is going to be like a MacBook Pro, because I'm really loving what I'm doing with Photoshop, but I want to be able to do it better. But this is one where we need to explain to everybody that Apple has a no talk back, no excuses 2-week return policy. That I think you really need to beat the hell out of this for the first couple of weeks to make sure there isn't that one edge case when you're not just pushing the cursor to the right where, oh my God, this is going to be this is a thing I do every 9 days, but every 9 days this is going to be a terrible experience.
I don't disagree that people should be sure that this is a computer they can use for whatever they want to use it for. But I will say it is a superior computer to the M1 MacBook Air in almost every way. So it's not going to be a degraded experience out the door than that computer that was at Walmart. It is, if anything, faster than the M1 MacBook Air. That said,
at the time, contemporary.
That said,
with
the MacBook Air is 5+ years old, the M1 MacBook Air. And this is brand new. And that goes to Christina's point. I do wonder, one of the things when Apple introduced private cloud compute that I thought is, oh, I see what you're doing. Eventually, you'll have a bunch of models that run on device. And if the computer is too old, they will run in private cloud compute instead. And they could do stuff like that. But I think that's a fair point, that we can say the M1 Air is still great. M1 systems are still amazing, especially for this level of use case. The problem is that they are old. And is the M1 so great that 10 years out, M1 level performance is still acceptable?
No one's saying that the M1 should be the table stakes. I'm just saying that I'm saying within the context, like historically speaking, and historically involves like the first couple of years up to maybe even last year. Again, if you walked into an Apple store with what is the cheapest MacBook I can buy, you would walk out with something that is a very, very competent and almost any task you would throw at it machine. Whereas now, if you walk into an Apple store and walk out with the cheapest Mac, you are buying one that is, unless you are the most careless consumer ever, you're buying something that you know is compromised for a lot of tasks, but nonetheless suitable for the tasks that you chose to put into it, where the $500 you saved off of the M5 MacBook Air is more valuable to you than the extra performance you would get, the extra displays, the faster storage, the faster RAM, all that sort of stuff.
Is the price low enough?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, I think for the base model it is. I will say this. I said this on Mastodon and Twitter and Blue Sky earlier today. I think that, and this obviously can change, and it gets a little bit iffier with student discounts. I think the $700 unit that they're selling, that price, you can, but right now, and I know this won't always be the same, you can buy a refurb M4 Air for $760. Oh. That is a better machine. Yeah. Every single, there's no comparison. Yeah. There's no comparison. Yep. Do not buy the $700 model. There is zero reason to buy that. I think though that the $600 or $500, if you use the student discount, I think that's low enough. I mean, we were all last week, we were surprised that they were able to come in this low. Now we see the compromises they had to make. And so I think that's how we get there, right? And we can hope that future versions might make less compromises like they've done on the 17E, for instance, this year versus, the one last year. And I know that Apple takes this sort of feedback to heart. And as things push on, we can hope that this will continue to get better. I do think $500 for the compromises that are, I do think that's low enough. But that said, I would not, or $500-$600, I would not spend $700. I would not, like, especially if you can get a refurb of the proper Air for almost nothing more, like that one. I don't think I would upgrade it, but I think that the base model, I think is
okay. But here's a counter that I've been thinking about. How about a year from now when you maybe can buy a factory refurb Neo for $400? Or let's say $450, maybe a little bit more realistic, but for substantially under $500 without an educational discount.
That is actually compelling. And I think at that point, that becomes a different conversation. That's a great point. I still would stand by, I would not buy like the stepped up, like the one with Touch ID in 512. As much as I love Touch ID, as much as I know why they left that off, you can use an Apple Watch. There are other ways you can kind of, get around that. I personally, if I was going to invest $100 into it, I would look at, okay, is there another option where I could get a better overall laptop, for that money? Save the $100 for something else. But for $450, again, I still worry, will it be usable 3 years after that? And I don't know. And I think that's a valid thing. And I think for some of us, we might look at $450 and go, you know what? That's fine. We can, amortize that just based on it being around good enough. Yeah. I think, though, that if you're buying this I think is the one disconnect that Apple has a little bit with this product. This is going after a new audience. And Jason pointed that out, which I think is a great point. These are people who have not been Mac users before. However, the general consensus, with the exception of the M series Intel chips, like so the 12-inch MacBook and the Retina MacBook Air, the general kind of consensus, I think, on MacBooks and honestly the whole kind of, mid 2010s era Macs were kind of a mess, was that you can have them for a decade. And they will hold their value and you can use them for a long time. That's kind of been the conventional wisdom. And that's why you see people sell really old Intel Macs for way more than they should ever be able to sell them for on eBay. And people buy it because they don't know any better and they don't realize, no, you were buying something that should be $50 at most. Do not spend $300 on this thing. Right. But people look at Mac, they're like, oh, they last forever. They really hold their value. I think, at least with this one, and future ones might be different, we are going to get to that point where I'm going to be like, is this going to be one that you could use meaningfully a couple of years from now? And that I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also a lot of this is how long does Apple want to support this? Because when I have three laptops in regular rotation. Number one priority is my MacBook Pro. Number two priority is my iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard. But third priority is actually a 2016 Intel Chromebook that I've got Linux running on. And the weird thing is that I kind of, again, when my task for the day or for the afternoon is to just push the cursor to the right, meaning writing stuff in Markdown, email messages, doing some research on the web, I'm shocked at how performant this 2016 laptop that was designed to be a cheap, even a 2016 laptop, still is. So I'm trying to. I absolutely 100% agree with you. Let's make sure that's really, really clear. I'm trying to, over the past week, I've been trying to expand my imagination as to encompass the sort of users that are just the ideal market for a $400 Chromebook. They aren't buying it because they're being forced to use or anything like that. They are literally, again, they're buying it as, let's say, a phone accessory, as opposed to like a productivity machine. Like, how little is going to be more than enough for those people? And I'm trying to give myself the imagination to imagine that this level of performance, even 5 years from now, even with whatever disadvantages that it acquires as Mac OS becomes more and more sophisticated and AI becomes more and more integrated into the experience, into users' expectations, will that still be enough? And the question has to be, maybe yes. So it's hard.
I will say, I think Apple knows what it's doing in releasing this product with these configurations at this time. Like Apple knows it has to support this thing, right? It has to look at its roadmap and now be aware that, it used to have a bunch of M1s from 2020 and 2021 that it had to support for some period of time. And we don't know yet sort of what the overall sort of software support is going to be in the Apple Silicon era. We're about to shed the Intel era. The next question is, at what point does Apple say, M1 doesn't really get this feature or whatever, right? By doing this, they are resetting the clock. They are saying, okay, 2026 and 2027, at least for a little bit, we're going to sell an A18 Pro laptop. And they have to know that means they have to support it and they have to think about compatibility when they do OS features. All of that is now on with 8 gigs of RAM, right? All of that is on the table. So I do think they would not release this product not having a game plan for that. Sure. But you are still putting, yourself in there. I mean, we always do that with any product we buy from any company, right? There is some level of hope that they're going to behave well. Apple has a good track record here, so I would like to think that the track record of supporting this thing will be decent. But again, at $599, I think it's important for all of us who spend several hours on or listening to a tech podcast. The audience for this, the target audience for this, is using their computer in a very different way with like, I saw a lot of people complaining about like no Thunderbolt. It's like, I barely use Thunderbolt. Like this is a very different kind of system. I'm not saying that it isn't important for it to be good, but I can tell you it has all the good things that a Mac has. And the hope is that it will continue to do what the buyers of this product need it to do for a decent amount of time. I agree. This is a bigger question mark than Apple has had in a Mac since Apple Silicon started, right? So that's the real question to me, is like, how is it going to go? But I do think the most important point is there's a whole collection of people out there who are not dumb people. They just don't care about computers like we do, right? They just don't care. But you need a laptop for something or other. You need to have one. And I'll say what the mindset is. A lot of times the mindset is, well, I could buy a MacBook Air for $1,000, but this HP laptop is $500. Why would I spend an extra $500 for a computer? They're not thinking about total cost of ownership and how Mac OS is nicer. And they're not dumb. They just don't care. They don't see why
they are.
Right.
They don't see why it should matter. But now that there's a $600 Mac, they're like, oh, I do. Because keep in mind, way more people have iPhones than Macs.
Right.
Like they're raw numbers. Way more people have iPhones than have Macs. So there are a lot of people out there who like Apple. They like their iPhone, and they've never considered an Apple computer, because it's like, why would I pay more? When they see this, they will consider it. That's kind of who this is for, and that's why Apple is targeting switchers again with this campaign. And and I think that's why we're all, I think, excited about Apple playing this area, because it's a potential for people who've never really considered the Mac before to consider it. And what they'll get is a Mac. It is not the best Mac, but it is also not a broken Mac. It clears the bar for now. I think Christina's point is, how long does it clear the bar?
Last question. Is this going to replace the MacBook Air as the best-selling Mac?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
Christina?
I think it'll cannibalize a little from the Air. I think it'll cannibalize a bit from people trying to make it work with an iPad and a keyboard.
Yeah.
And I think
might hurt the iPad more.
I think their goal
actually, I think
is,
it will
it's really
be
an
better.
iPad, isn't it? It's an
and I think
iPad
their goal
Pro
is to
in some
create new
ways,
users. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. At first I was like, oh yeah, totally will. And then, no, I think you're right, Jason. Like the best-selling iPhone is the iPhone Pro. The best-selling, Mac is the MacBook Air. And at this point, I think the MacBook Air, even Apple is kind of conceding in a lot of ways, is really, that is the great kind of all-around perfect laptop, right? You can get it with 32 gigs of RAM with the latest version, right? And it which is crazy, right? Like it's a very powerful machine. And in a lot of cases, I mean, like, a lot of companies I know that used to issue standard issue like MacBook Pros to their engineers are issuing very high level, but still MacBook Airs as standard issue computers now. And it's not because they're spending less money like that. It's not about that. It's because the MacBook Air does what they want, and then it's lighter and it's thinner and it's got great battery life. So people are much happier with that than having like a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I guess we'll just have to see, because like on one hand, I think that probably is the case. I don't think this is going to make a meaningful dent in education, no matter what anybody
100%.
says. If they're too ingrained with
Really?
Chrome, no. The way Google does the device management, you would have to pay for Jamf, which is just an extra fee. You're already using Google for your courseware. You're already using them for your Google Workspace. So you're going to still have to pay Google anyway. And you're going to, I don't care what the long-term ownership costs are. You're doubling your costs versus what you would paying for Chromebooks on Macs.
Can I add one thing too? What a lot of the commentary is overlooking is the fact that, take a look at a Chromebook. That is, take a look at a laptop that Dell, HP, Asus makes specifically for the education market. There are no tricky screws. There are no adhesives. You can swap out a battery without having to soften any glues. You can swap out a screen. It is built to be as durable as those phones from episodes of Columbo in the 1970s that could be used as a murder weapon, because kids are animals and they will find ways to break things. And when you put again, a Neo is beautiful, it's wonderful, it's lovely, but it will not last in an education environment. That's one of the biggest and the reasons you stated are just as actually probably more important, because Google has done such an amazing job. When Apple made a push towards every student having a computer, buying an iPad, they started off with, well, we're going to build this wonderful, wonderful iPad. We're going to market and package this iPad. Google started off with teachers like, what are your technical requirements, and that would include administration. How are you going to maintain and make sure you have courseware for that sort of stuff? It is an entire package. But again, it's not going to make a dent against education unless you're talking about the education, meaning that kids are going to want to buy their own notebook for.
And there are
for
sites that have more money and experiment, and but those are going to probably be the exception and not the rule. Christina and I had a little back and forth on this, and I pointed out that the original rumor about this, which was more than 2 years ago in Digitimes, cast the whole thing as a Chromebook killer. And at the time, I wrote a blog post about it, and I said, that's not what this is. This is using an iPhone chip in a Mac, because you could do that now and it would be a decent Mac. And it took more than 2 years for that report to the product coming out. But like a Chromebook killer always seemed bizarre. Now, the mid 500-ish PC laptop
is dead.
That is in trouble. And I know that Apple picks what it picks, but like they made a point of carting out a $550 HP 14-inch laptop and sitting it next to the Neo. And I know that they picked it, and there were probably better ones they could have picked. But I will just say it was garbage. It felt flimsy. The screen was terrible. Apple has the advantage here of having the really nice aluminum enclosure, and the screen is bright. It's not as good as a MacBook Air screen, but you know what? It's a good screen, and it's gonna. That's much more likely where this is going to impact people. Is people who are like, I'm going to spend $500 on a laptop.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
Especially as all these Windows 10 notebooks are now end of life, and they're going to have to replace them anyway. I don't think that the $500 Windows notebook is dead. I think that they're going to.
It's not dead, but
no killer is a killer.
Also, in an environment in which their notebook sales industry wide are already down 12% with no up range in sight, it's a huge problem. What the advantages that the Windows line still has is that they have tendrils into every single retail channel where anybody could conceivably be looking for a laptop. Some people don't. Again, they just want to solve the problem of, I need a notebook. Okay, that's fine. Costco, great, sounds great. Let's get it. And the third thing is that, and this is
Costco too, though.
Yeah.
I know. But I'm saying, but they might recognize something in a Windows notebook they don't recognize in an Apple. But the other thing is that, and this is not even an advantage of Windows. The thing is, what's great about I'm about to say here's something that Windows has going for it. Even though
burn the heretic.
Even though,
he's a witch.
I've been burned so many times in 20 years from so many people. What I was about to get at though is that the great advantage of the Neo, but hasn't been spoken of, is that you walk in, you spend $600, and you get the great $600 notebook. Whereas on Windows side, you can walk in and walk out with a great $600 notebook that is as pretty much as well made as a Neo, I think, at least as good in spec, given that this might be a year old instead of current, maybe even with more features, more storage, more ports, more stuff like that. The problem is you got to fight for it. You have to comparison shop like hell. And also you have to be aware of the fact that Dell makes an XPS laptop that is list price at $900, but it's a fake price because 8 times a year it drops down to like $640. So it's so hard to make an apples to apples compare here. But again, that's why I choose to, in this context, to say that this is another hidden advantage of the Neo. You walk in with this $600, you walk out with the modern, extremely well built, extremely well supported $600 notebook. You don't have to set up 18 NORAD style windows to track, and also this stuff. I was trying to create a good one-to-one compare. It took me like all afternoon before I realized that the message was that it's impossible to compare, because like, okay, well, here's again another HP, but oh damn it, that's right, it's called the Dell Racmento 12 2026 XXA, but you have to realize that the SKU is like there's a separate SKU for every single retailer, and they all have different specs,
Slightly
so
different
you can't
things.
do one-to-one. It's like, this is madness. This is why almost everybody's going to say, Dad, Mom, or Uncle, whatever, go to the Apple Store, give them $600. They will give you a laptop that is perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about it.
No, I mean, I think you're great. I think the only advantage that you have in the Windows world at all is that you get more configurations, meaning if you wanted a bigger screen or something, which some people might be swayed by. But no, I mean, you're going to get for $600, and by killer, I don't mean that this is going to kill the segment. What I mean is for $600, you're not going to find a better $600, which is exactly what you're saying,
100%.
consistently on the market.
Yeah. In a place that Apple was never even considered before.
Exactly. My dad won't use a Mac, unfortunately. I had to buy him a Windows laptop a couple years ago, and he'd used a Chromebook, and that was okay, but that had some issues with his printer and scanning, and maybe that's been fixed by now. But at the time, I got my mom on a Mac 15, 16 years ago, but I can't get my dad on one. So I had to go through Andy's exact thing. I had to do the NORAD screens. I had to do the research on slick deals. I had to find what's the best one I can do within the requirements he wants. It took me far longer than it should have. If we were to do it today, and in fact, actually, this might happen, if/when his laptop dies, and it's only a couple of years old, but it's a Windows laptop, and it's one of those things, I upgraded the RAM on it, but whatever, I'm probably just going to buy him the Neo and say, this is what you use now. You don't have a choice.
If you want me to support it, this is what you're going to buy.
Right.
All right. So you've blown my entire budget for all of the announcements. We managed to spend an entire hour on the Neo alone.
It's the big one.
It's exciting.
It is the big one, and it is new. By the way, I have a little tangent because we were talking about will it replace the MacBook Air, and is the MacBook Air so mainstream now that you might not even get a MacBook Pro, and it becomes more of a very high end, it if you need it kind of system. I will say that every time people ask could you run Logic or Final Cut on the Neo, Apple PR people would say, well, you can. But if you're doing those kinds of workflows, we recommend you consider the MacBook Air. And sometimes that's all they would say. Other times there would be a long pause and they would say, or the MacBook Pro. MacBook Pro also great. And I thought that was really telling. I know you're coming up from the Neo to the Air. It's the first one you see as you're passing through. Okay, I get it. But I think there's also truth in that. MacBook Air is super, that's why we're here, right? Is that Apple Silicon has thrown the performance of all of these Mac laptops up so high that there's room for another one underneath the MacBook Air now that wasn't there before. And the MacBook Air is, so even Apple is like, oh, right, the MacBook Pro too, because the MacBook Air was the first thing they went to.
The Air is still a hell of a default. I mean, I will probably be finally replacing I'll probably be replacing my M1 MacBook Pro finally this year. And it's going to take me months just to figure out, should I save money? Should I spend the same amount of money on a MacBook Air that's a little bit more maxed out? Or do I still need to do my usual play, which is buy essentially the base level MacBook Pro, because it has, Christina had a great discussion last week about how cooling is such a big effect on performance.
Because as a fan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why years ago I bought the MacBook Pro instead of the M1 MacBook Air. It's okay, I really want that fan because I really think that's going to pay off in the end. But yeah, it's hard to know what the difference is, even if you're one of those people who uses a MacBook as a desktop as well. It became a much more difficult decision. I'm glad I could so easily reject the Neo, because that's the only easy part of this decision tree.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, somebody at in Apple marketing has been microdosing, I think. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out.
Watching too much anime. Too much
Something's going on. You're watching MacBreak Weekly with the wonderful Christina Warren, now a regular member of our panel. So glad to have you. And Christina has a couple of rants, I think, coming up. We'll talk about Ticketmaster and Tahoe together at last. Andy Anako also here, not from the library, from his very own home. Listen for the occasional Harley going by. And the man with the lemon tree, even though he can't see the lemon. Mr.
I can see the lemon just fine. Yellow. I can see yellow.
That is a pitch for a really interesting children's book. The man with the lemon tree who could not see the lemons.
Yes. No, I can see everything except very, very light pinks and very, very differences in shades of green.
Hardly.
I'm okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
You're fine. All right. Our show today brought to you by Pebble. Not the Pebble you're thinking of, P-E-B-L. In fact, it's at HiPebble.ai, HiPebl.ai. Here's a quick question. if you're hiring, are you hiring in another country right now? A lot of people are. In fact, Benito is in the Philippines, right? Because once you do, and we learned this, things can get complicated really fast, but that's where Pebble can help. You can send offers to anyone in the world in minutes and get them onboarded fast. Pebble is an AI-powered global human resources platform built for founders, HR leaders, and operators who are hiring and supporting teams around the world. Pebble helps you hire, pay, and manage talent in over 185 countries with fast onboarding. It can be done in minutes instead of juggling separate tools for contracts and payroll and benefits and compliance. Pebble brings it all together, everything together with built-in guidance and local expertise to support you. That's especially helpful if you're managing teams internationally or planning to grow internationally. The fastest growing companies in the world use Pebble to stay organized and reduce risk, and founders are using it to scale faster without having to become HR or compliance experts. Rated #1 in compliance on G2. The customers' testimonials right there speak for themselves. For example, Paige needed global talent to align with its bold mission as a digital diagnostics company revolutionizing cancer pathology with AI. Paige's VP of Finance and Operations said, quote, "Over the past year, we've doubled, if not tripled, our global headcount. That growth has been largely thanks to our partnership with Pebble." Bottom line, it simplifies global people operations so you can spend more time growing the business and supporting your team. Pebble's new standard discounting pricing, $399 USD per month per employee, helps you contain costs too. Go to hypebble.ai to get a free estimate. Again, hypebl.ai for a free estimate. Hypebble.ai. We thank them so much for thinking of us and supporting MacBreak Weekly. Okay, 17E, skip that. MacBook Pros, skip that. New displays, unless anybody has something they want to say, skip that. Now, let's get to the most important thing, Apple's new TikTok ads. What a weird collection of stuff. Have you seen them?
Yeah, it's mostly I'm aware of them because I'm aware of all the social media stuff in my feed. Say, what the hell is Apple? What the hell?
I love them.
It's the Finder. No, again, I think it's cool, but I'm surprised they didn't come out right the gate and say get ahead of it. They're calling this little animated character that's like all bubbling and doing TikTok stuff. He's adorable. He reminds me of like the Android droid, which is, it's nice to have a cute personification to like for your marketing and for your messaging. I do think that's a positive thing.
It's not just that. But, I mean, look there's a guy in blue jeans, turns around, all he's showing is a Neo in his pocket. Here's blue denim dye hands. There's no computer in it. This is one of my favorites.
I love that.
This is a great one. This is a throwback. It says Macintosh.
Yeah.
Insanely great. And then it says,
"Hello, I am Macintosh."
Like,
so good.
It doesn't, this is like a product, 40-year-old product.
Apple 50th anniversary. They're aware of history now.
It's retro. It's retro. I mean, look, the kids all use the wired headphones now, right? Like, genuinely.
Did this speak to you a little bit of blush in a MacBook Neo?
I mean, I do love, like, I guess for the new color cases, that blush case is. Yeah. I would buy that.
They should make this. I know, they should make this.
Genuinely, they would sell out in
Sephora would be sold out immediately.
Yes. Classic guidebook, yeah.
Yeah, like that I would, like, if Apple did a makeup collab, they never would. But although, no, you know what?
What is this? It's just the sunrise. I don't even, it's the sound. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. This was one that I saw around, just all the sounds in together with fizzy lemons and limes. I don't know. It's
I like the one where the lime FaceTimes.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to see the lime FaceTiming?
That's my favorite
let's see.
one.
Wait a minute. Let me see if I can find that one. There's quite a few of them. I think this is it. Is this it?
Yeah, that's it. A lime is FaceTiming.
Yeah.
Hello, this is lime.
And then the lime's talking to the lemon. That's it. That's the whole thing.
That's it. That's the joke.
That's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. They're all really short, which is very interesting.
I'm just surprised they didn't name the character. People are calling the character like the Finder
great. I
guy.
love them so much, and I like to present them like this in my house.
Wait a minute, let me play that again.
love
Sorry.
I love lime.
I love them. They're great. I love them so much, and I like to present them like this in my house.
If you see this, it just is non sequitur, but it's great.
The reason the audio clip was that was Hilaria Baldwin.
I've seen that. Yes.
So they're like playing off top of things. This is all aesthetic. I mean, look, this is not to say anything about our beloved audience. These ads are probably not for us, unfortunately. But
they're for the young. They're for Gen Alpha or whatever they call
or
it.
Gen. I mean, they finally hired some Gen Z marketing people. I think, or let's actually be clear. They hired a Gen Z marketing agency, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. I mean, we'd have to see the results, but I mean, it matches a lot of the other stuff I see from other more popular brands, like in that kind of demographic.
Is it? Oh, so this is not. So this is a good one. This is a birth announcement. Be born today, 11 a.m. Today's your big day. And then they have kind of a gender reveal. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here.
It's just, well, it's like an actual message thing. Oh yeah, and there's like candles, and it's like emoji and iMessage effects and stuff. It's very cute.
If you're just listening,
It is.
even the audio is great on these. But if you're just listening, you're missing some of the. It's the Apple account on TikTok.
On TikTok,
Well, what's smart about how they did that particular video that we just watched was that they showed it it was framed so it could look like it's an iPhone, and you're seeing your iMessage notifications come in. Then they scroll out and you see it's a Mac. I think that's
actually the
important
Mac.
because this is going after again
Little
to Jason's
subliminal
point.
stuff
This is
going
again,
on
this is all going to people who have not been Mac users. You know, there are way more iPhone users than Mac users, and I noticed this in the marketing on their own homepage and some of their videos, like the ads that they made. Like they made a really big deal, like you can iMessage on your laptop. That is that's another selling point. Like for $500-$600, like that's a thing you can't do on a Chromebook. That's a thing you can't do on a Windows laptop, right? Like, because trust me, no one yes, I know about Blue Bubbles. I'm aware. No one who's, going to be using those things is going to be setting up a Blue Bubble server, which requires a Mac anyway. So, that's a huge selling point, especially to people who, as we know, the teens
you already have an
love their
iPhone.
iPhones. They
Wouldn't
love
you like to see your messages on your laptop? By the way, week-old account, 7.7 million followers. And the most viewed video, which is that blush video, that little blush video, is 59 million views in a week.
pretty good.
They probably
pretty good.
paid for ads, but that's still very, very good.
This is remarkable.
The character they dropped, Andy mentioned, they dropped this character in one of these videos that's like a person with the Mac Finder face.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And people are like calling him the like Finder guy or whatever. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know. His name's Mac, right? Like, it's got to be his name.
Has he been named? Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be. I'm
always call him
just
Finder.
saying. I'm going to put that out in the world that I
name is
want
Mac. I like
Finder
it.
It's
guy.
Mac.
He should. And
Let
I'm
me
sure
show
that
you for
marketing
people who haven't
gender
seen
the
Finder
character.
Guy. So the Finder head, which is that kind of dual profile front-on
cute.
face.
System 7.
Yeah. Where is this ad showing? I don't. Oh, is it?
No, that's a
It's
TikTok.
on the
It's one of the
TikTok
TikTok videos.
one
Yeah,
of
I must have missed it. Okay.
yeah, and it's the two faces that was originally in the macOS logo, basically when they had to do macOS licensing during the System 7 era for clones, and then it got repurposed as the Finder icon, and we know it does that today, and it's a symbol of the Mac, and then there's a little character with some little two faces on his face.
Cute.
Can I also say that this symbol, this logo symbol, has been like our collective canary on when Apple absolutely loses its sense of fun. We've all been waiting for. At what point are we going to update to a new OS and suddenly there's something stupid,
files
a
icon.
gray with 2 dots in the middle of it that represents the Finders? Like, okay.
It'll be just the files icon from iOS.
Oh,
It'll just be an
Awful.
icon of a
Oh,
folder.
good, a folder.
And we'll
A folder,
be sad.
which
but
people
it's-
don't,
but it's
which the
offline.
kids don't even know what folders are. So,
No, they
which is actually interestingly, I think that might be more of an issue for Apple with like this kind of newer generation of users who are used to Chromebooks and iPhones. Ironically, more than anything else, from the operating system point of view, would be like, oh, we now have to explain basic like file management paradigms because you don't know that things are just always saved to a cloud. But yeah, I hope they won't, but it would be great if they would do like a collab with like some sort of collectible company. It would be higher end and sell the little Mac guy, because I would totally buy that.
I don't think it's wrong that the part of the Google store is, hey, do you want like a resin version of the Dino
I know.
game? Great. Do you know what we created like new vinyl droids for like the Olympics this year?
Yeah.
Like, again, we're a weird species. We like that kind of stuff. I like.
We know Christina does.
When I worked at Google, that was like literally one of the things I did when I went to like the big company store. I was like, oh my, yes.
Look what I still have on my desk. It's like I like these things.
Yes.
I'm weird.
Oh my gosh, I have those. I don't know where they are, but I have those things.
Those are the
them.
Gumby iPod and the Gumby Mac.
I bought both of those. I have no idea where they are, but
Classic.
I bought them both. The iPod's my favorite. Yes.
Yeah.
So
not only did they get a Gen Z or maybe a Gen Alpha marketing team, they've actually reorged the design, the executive leadership page. Alan Dye, of course, has left. So they are now bringing 2 more designers up into the executive page, right next to Tim Cook and John Turnus. Molly Anderson.
Well, they're below the line.
Okay,
they're not
okay.
senior vice presidents.
They're not at
just
the
vice
top.
presidents.
Okay,
There's a
but they're on
line.
the page.
I'm tickled by the fact that there's a horizontal rule between the senior vice presidents and the vice presidents, just so you know who's boss.
Steve LeMay also, he's taking over for Alan Dye. So this is Parker Otolani's blog who says the new Apple begins to emerge. Is that fair? Is that...
Well, who
Is
was
this the
standing
new
on the
Apple?
stage in New York at the Experience introducing the video? It was John Turnus.
100%.
Who was making all the press tour for this? It's John Turnus. I mean, it is new hardware, and he's the SVP of hardware. But I think it's hard not to look at it and think this is a calculation to get him more visible and known as part of his. I'm not even saying as a done deal, but like if you're considering him for a CEO role, they did this with both the candidates at Disney too. You want to expose them to those aspects of the business and run them out there and see how they do. I mean, quite frankly, and it's either, if he does a bad job, they could be like, maybe not, or if he does get the job, it won't be quite as much of a who, because they'll be like, oh yeah, I saw that guy in the last year or whatever. And so, yeah, he's very visible.
I should point out that, here's the top line. There's that little thin bar separating them, Molly and Steve, from the big shots. John Turnus is the last one on the big shots page. And then at the very bottom is Phil Schiller, who I guess this is on the way out.
He's just an Apple fellow.
He's slowly migrating from the top of the page to the bottom.
The thing with Phil is that Phil is still in charge of events and the App Store. So he's not a minister without portfolio. He has a portfolio. It's just he's like retired and become an Apple fellow and is still also a senior executive all at the same time. It's nice. Maybe he works a little less. I don't know, but he's still very present and was at the event in New York. So yeah.
So that's were there people reading the tea leaves about John Turnus doing the presentation?
Every time he shows up prominently in anything now, everybody's like, yep. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, and we wouldn't have done that before, but certainly everybody's thinking it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too. I mean, he was even asked about it, and he gave like the perfect Apple PR answer, which is he was like, "Well, I'm very happy with the job that I have," and I was like, "Oh, okay, you have had the really good media training. You have had
we've heard that
which
That's why he's above the line.
We're going to play it one game at a time, and the good Lord willing, things will work out."
No, but I think you're spot on. I mean, this is exactly what they did with Josh D'Amelio and with Dana Walden at Disney. This is what a lot of companies do. I think this was one of the things they didn't do with Bob Chapek, which is I think if they had, Bob Iger might have realized at Disney the first time, this guy is not our guy. I think the real thing there was Bob Iger just didn't want to leave and felt forced to. But in this case, I mean, I think that he seems to have a lot of credibility. For all the complaints that people have about Apple, it's not the hardware. So I think that if you're going to, look at a successor, the hardware guy is not the one who's going to be getting a lot of the, flack from even the diehards,
Well, get ready, because according to Mark Gurman at Bloomberg, now that we have, how many was this last week? 5, 6 products? Now that those are out the door, next come the Ultra products. Apple's Ultra products expansion is up next after the MacBook Neo launch. As many as 20 new products this year. So that's kind of dramatic. He's talking about, he thinks Ultra will be the name of the M6 MacBook that the
I don't know.
CarPlay Ultra, Apple Watch Ultra. You don't think Ultra will migrate into the other products? The iPhone foldable iPhone
I
Ultra?
really like Mark Gurman. He is a great reporter. He has great sources. Bloomberg also requires him to be a pundit. And sometimes it gets complicated about whether he's doing punditizing or whether he knows things. And as you read this article, I read this article and thought to myself, well, what he's really doing is sort of stitching together. And later in the story, he's like, they may not all be called Ultra, but the trend is that Apple's going to do more super premium products, which is not wrong. He knows. Actually, that's
interesting. They're spreading, aren't they? And they've done this before. They did it with the iPods, where they spread the market. They get the low end, and now they get the high end.
I mean, since forgive me for repeating myself, but since the iPhone 10, what we've discovered is Apple continues to try to find a product too expensive for an Apple product, part of the Apple audience to buy, and has not yet found it. There is a portion of the Apple audience that will buy very expensive phones,
$12,000 solid
very
gold
expensive laptops.
Within living memory.
The gold watch was probably the one lesson where they're like, maybe not that. But for a real product like, because they did the iPhone 10 and it was like, wow, let's do a version of that that's bigger, and that's sold too. And they have kept kind of creeping up. We're going to get that folding phone, but it goes back to what I was saying about the Air, that Apple Silicon lifted the Air and the Pro to the point where Apple recommends the Air for a lot of stuff now, and then the Neo can come underneath, and that it does make the Pro maybe more of a specialist, people who really need all those GPU cores and all of that, or the cooling or whatever it is. And it does, I think Mark asked a really good question, which is they do this M6 MacBook Pro with touch. I think we're all assuming that the M5 MacBook Pro will go away, but he does at least ask the question, is this like a MacBook Ultra? Is this I think it's not. But he's asking the question because his larger point, again, I think the Ultra is a thing for him to hang his story on. His point is Apple is also pushing a bunch of stuff up in the high end and doing new versions of a bunch of that stuff. And that's what they're doing with that MacBook Pro.
They kind of have to explain what they're planning if they're going to release the MacBook M5 Max and then some sort of M6 in the fall. They've done that multiple.
They've done that
multiple times. They did that 2 years ago. They did that 4 years ago.
Remember the year that they released the iPad 3, and then it was not even 6 months later they released the iPad 4?
I do remember that. But people know the M6 is coming.
Yeah,
Don't
but
you
if you
think
need a
that'll
laptop,
depress sales of the M5 Max?
Maybe.
If
it
you
did
need a
for
laptop,
me. I'm not going to buy the M5 Max.
For you, sure. But we keep pointing out like how many people are as plugged into this stuff, right? So if you just know I need a new MacBook Air is probably right. But if you have, say, an M1 and you can get, M1 Max and you're looking to upgrade, there's also, you might want to do it. Even if you know what's coming out, I would say this, there's something to be said for, that the hardware has been tested. We know what the features are. I know what I'm getting. Even if this is the last of this, line of this design series, this is good and this is what I want. Whereas I think that the M1 MacBook Pro was an exception, like the redesign, the one in 2021 was an exception. But I think most of us can say like the first generation of like Apple laptops, especially when they do a big hardware redesign, can have some rough edges. And I would personally be, not to say that I wouldn't buy it, but I would be, especially if I'm going to be spending a lot of money, there would be some hesitation in my mind where I'm going, okay, do I want to trust, because they've made bad decisions before. If you went from the 2015 MacBook Pro to the 2016 MacBook Pro, you're going to hate your life because they ruined it, right? They ruined the laptop. And I don't think that's going to happen again. But I don't think there's there's an argument to be made, which is if this chip is good enough, I like the hardware. It has all the ports I want. I don't necessarily need to wait for the next thing.
Yeah. And on the broader point, I think it's notable that as Ultra as a new class or a new designation of hardware, you know what? Apple shipped the Mac Studio. They did not call it the Mac Pro. Apple shipped the MacBook Neo. They did not call it the MacBook Mini. I really think they're now we're going to create a brand new product name for every different product line that's distinctive.
Yeah.
That's marketed towards a distinctive group of people. So
this Sonny Dixon is released, which it could be completely bogus. It could be real, a CAD rendering of the iPhone Fold. We already knew it was going to be kind of this form factor and this aspect ratio, but
But this is
I'm getting in line for that, even though it's probably $2,500. You think?
2,000.
The speculation is centering around a little bit over 2,000. I've seen as high as 2,900, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we're getting at that excellent time of any rumors where if they are intending to launch this in the fall, this is the time where they can't.
Yep.
It's locked. B, they can't keep control over the information in a way they once have to, because now they've got to share this with so many other people. This is the time so even if it's the exact same design that we might have seen in a rumor like last summer, if it's a new thing today, it's like, you know what, this actually might be genuine CAD files, maybe disguised just a little bit to make sure that, okay, let's not have that special notch there because only one person has access to the CAD files with that notch there. But this is where if you want to get excited about a real thing, it's okay to start getting a little bit excited about rumors that you've seen.
HomePad, according to another leak, Kotsutami, the HomePad, which is the new, I don't know what you call it, HomePod.
Why?
They saw the rampaging success of Google's Pixel tablet with the magnetic detachable space. Said, we want in on that. We want to stick our hand in that till up to the elbow.
How do we get that? Yeah.
Could be good, but yeah.
This fall, perhaps?
Smartphone device. Yeah, Gurman said that too, that it's going to be delayed until the fall, and it's going to be a fall launch. And that's all because the Apple Intelligence stuff is still not there, and it's entirely predicated on Apple Intelligence and having app interactions with app intents and stuff. And it sounds like Gurman had it specifically. That product is now running 27 and not 26. So that means it's not going to happen until the fall because it's running tvOS. It's moved to its base being 27. I think they've just accepted the fact that for it to be the product they want. Also, the launch time, they may just have decided that even though the hardware is ready and has been ready, I guess, for a while, that launching it in the fall for the holidays might not be the worst place to do it, and it lets them build off of whatever stuff is in the 27 releases in terms of AI stuff.
Really does underscore exactly how much the failure of the delays in the timeline of developing Apple Intelligence must have surprised so many people inside Apple, or was a well-kept secret that should have been shared with so many people, that they made so many different kinds of plans that predicated upon Siri will be the new AI Siri is going to be ready by the spring. By all means, let's book the manufacturing. Let's make sure we lock down these designs because we are going to have to start selling these devices. And now they don't. They're hoping for 2026. Maybe it'll be 2027. I'm glad that they seem to be in a position now where it's like Apple Intelligence is going to be ready when it's ready. We are hoping for this. We haven't had a chance to
talk to Christina about this. You were working before you went back to GitHub. You were working for Google DeepMind.
Yeah.
Some say, I might be in this group, that Apple hasn't missed the boat by not having Apple Intelligence ready. It's an embarrassment. But in a way, they can sit back. They're going to work with Google, it looks like. Gemini is going to be their core model. Maybe it benefited them. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I think that Gemini and again, disclosure, like I used to work at DeepMind and I didn't know any of these details, obviously, but I worked on Gemini stuff. Not that I knew anything about this.
Gemini's really good.
But Gemini is really good, and it's gotten a lot better. And I think that this Gemini is actually, I think, a good case study for how you can recover from a fumble, because Bard was awful the first year or so. Gemini was not good, and then 1.5 started to get better, and then 2.0 was when we really started to see some changes. 2.5 things improved. I left right as the 3.0 Pro came out, but I worked on some stuff leading up to that, and they continue to work really hard. And from what I saw internally, and maybe this is the case at Apple, people seem very committed to really kind of getting out from the feeling of being behind.
What we've also learned is that these models are somewhat interchangeable. First Claude is on top, Opus 4.6 is on top, and then
that's the thing.
Then ChatGPT 5.4 comes out, then Google Gemini 3 Deep Think comes out, and and people move around. They go, this one's better. This one's better now. Oh, this one's better.
They do, and there's some things that Gemini does that I think are just best in class from anyone. Image generation, video stuff.
Nano Banana 2 is amazing.
Nano Banana period, but even the Imagine models, which were from a different model family. But regardless, I think that Apple partnering with a Frontier Lab whoever it was going to be was smart. And I think it was necessary. I think that it is an embarrassment that they so publicly announced the way that they announced it. What bothers me, because I was at the talk show actually in 2024, I guess, or was it 2020? Yes, 2024, when they made the big Apple Intelligence push, and JG
John
was
Gruber's
on stage.
show,
John Gruber's show. I was at the live show, and JG, ran Apple Intelligence at the time, or the AI stuff. The way that he was talking about how much and how good their AI stuff was, it strained credulity to me. And I didn't work at DeepMind at the time, but I did work, in AI, and I knew a lot about it. And I was sitting next to a friend of mine, and we were texting, kind of back channeling the whole time, like, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't pass the smell test. What they're saying for what they can achieve on the local levels and with the hardware that they're using in their data centers and all this stuff, this is not accurate. This is just not accurate from what the reality of the space is. And so putting any of the engineering issues, otherwise, like on the consumer side aside, like I just don't feel like that had the foundation. And I feel like it is an embarrassment. They are behind. I wouldn't say that this is an advantage, that they are saying, this was a good thing that they were so summarily embarrassed. I'm not going to say that, but I do think that this gives them a much better shot. It wasn't as
bad a thing as it could have been.
Well, maybe. I think that they were smart to partner with the ChatGPT first about kind of giving that as an option to do things. And I think that they were smart to come out and say that, announce the partnership with Google about how that's going to work. What is going to be difficult, quite frankly, is that I don't think that any of the, and let's just call it what it was, vaporware, because it was, that they showed off at WWDC 2024. I don't know if any of those scenarios are ever actually going to be things that we see in a realistic way, right? I just think we all have to kind of pretend like it was like, an old TV show episode. It was all a dream, right? Like that's just not going to be. Thank you, Andy. I'm glad you got the reference.
Sorry.
Terrible.
The Dallas reveal is the bridge that connects Gen X with millennials.
Oh, it truly is. It truly is. And we learned about it from like
shot
Family Guy.
Apple Intelligence is what you're saying.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it, right?
Apple Intelligence. The Finder guy stepping out of the shower.
Oh my God. Okay, no, that's an AI video that I want to like somebody to use Sora or somebody to create, because that would be hilarious.
I'm going to note that as a show title.
But no, I mean, I think we all have to forget about what we were going to see with that. Now, though, I think that this does give them an opportunity to kind of create, especially if they can lose. This is the hard thing. They sold everyone so hard on doing all this locally and what that means for your privacy. Now that they're actually we have to do things in data centers because we can't do this locally the way that we wanted to, it's going to complicate the messaging some. I think that that's, surmountable. I think they can totally get past that, but that's going to complicate things a little bit. What I hope, though, is that they can show off some really good experiences and things that you can do, and then talk about, these are our data centers, and that our data centers are not like the other data centers, even though maybe. And we might actually get use cases out of it, which would be the good thing. Because I don't know about the three of you. I turn Apple Intelligence off in as many venues as I can.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I like the summaries, but mostly for their humor.
Right. But like we talked about this last week with Michael. We were like, when was the last time you used like an Apple Intelligence feature? And like we were kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes it's on and I'll see things, but it's not. It's kind of like Siri, which has become a punchline. That is the one thing, and then I'll shut up. I hope that they just rebrand Siri, because that was, I think, the best lesson they could take from Google. Google saw that Bard was a punchline and it was not going to work, and they rebranded it. Siri has been a punchline since it existed.
Maybe that's what this little Mac guy is going to be. Maybe
that would be cute.
Yeah. Maybe that's
Clippy for Generation Alpha.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we have more to talk about, including a big change that might be a sign of the times. How's that for a tease? You're watching MacBreak Weekly with Christina Warren. Great to have you and your brains on the show. Andy Anatko, great to have you and your baseball caps on the show. And
thanks. Nice.
And
thank God I have several baseball caps so I can deliver so much to the show.
He's wearing a Bo Sox cap today. And Jason Snell and his lemons and limes, his citrus on the shows.
That's right.
Our show today brought to you by My Mattress. Everybody's got a trademark. All right. I'm just saying. My Mattress from Helix Sleep, I happen to think is a pretty good trademark these days. I love my Helix Sleep. How are you preparing for spring cleaning season? You know, it'd be a good time to put that old mattress on the curb. You can put a little sign, free mattress. Upgrade maybe to a Helix mattress and get a good night's sleep. I realized that we had our mattress for 8 years, and I had read somewhere that you should really get a new mattress every 6 to 10 years because they wear out. They wear out. So we went on a search for the best mattress. We looked at all the reviews, and we came up with, I think, the best mattress. No more night sweats, no back pain, no motion transfer. You don't want to settle for a mattress made overseas months ago with low quality and questionable materials, a mattress that has spent the last few months on a container ship and smells like a bunker fuel when you open the box. No, you don't want that. You get the Helix mattress. You can rest assured your brand new Helix mattress has been assembled, packaged, and shipped from Arizona. That crisp desert air, and it's done within days of placing your order. They make it to order. So that's nice. You can also do what we did, which is take the Helix sleep quiz, which matches you with the perfect mattress based on both your personal preferences and how you sleep, your sleep needs. And it really works. I have to tell you, the most important sleep, and I've been working as I get older, harder and harder on getting more deep sleep. And the Helix has made a big difference for me. In a Wesper sleep study, they found the same thing. Helix measured the sleep performance of participants who did what we did, switched from their old mattress to a Helix mattress. And they found 82% of the participants saw an increase in their deep sleep cycle. This is the most important part of your sleep. For me, it was about half an hour a night. It really isn't very long you get this deep sleep. Participants on average achieved 25 more minutes of deep sleep per night. For me, that was doubling what I was getting. And it really is true. Participants on average achieved 39 more minutes of overall sleep per night. Less time tossing and turning, more time sleeping. It means when you wake up, you're going to feel great. And time again, Helix Sleep remains the most awarded mattress brand, tested and reviewed by the experts at Forbes and Wired, many other places. It consistently ranked number one. Helix delivers your mattress right to your door, free shipping in the U.S., and rest easy with seamless returns and exchanges. They call it the Happy with Helix Guarantee. It provides a risk-free, customer-first experience, ensuring you're completely satisfied with your new mattress. I know we are. We love our Helix. Go to helixsleep.com/MacBreak right now for 27% off site-wide during the Sleep Week sale Best of Web. This is exclusively for listeners of MacBreak Weekly, so do it. Go to helixsleep.com/MacBreak, 27% off the Sleep Week sale Best of Web, but this offer ends March 15th. Do make sure to enter our show name after checkout. That way they'll know we sent you. And if you're listening after March 15th, you still want to check them out. There's always great deals at helixsleep.com/MacBreak. We love our Helix. So does Rosie, our kitty cat. She loves it too. She doesn't get more sleep, though. She wakes up at 6 a.m. no matter what and says, feed me. So, a change on the M3 Ultra Mac Studio that reflects a sign of the times. You can no longer get it with 512 gigs of RAM. Is this Apple admitting that RAM has become a really big cost center for them?
Your guess is as good as mine. It feels like they all the reports from like supply chain reporting has always been that Apple has managed to figure out deals to make sure they get enough RAM. There was a recent article about how they basically had to allow Samsung to strong arm them a little bit on price to make sure they still have stock. I'm wondering if as we often say on the show, Apple knows exactly who's buying their hardware and what hardware is selling. I think I would guess this is a sign that they're in a position where we have enough RAM for all of the machines that sell really, really well. The ones that are flagging, we are kind of okay with being a month late or 2 months late on shipping if we make sure that we can sell the ones that are in high demand and high profit.
Yeah, and I mean, it was it $4,000 for the 512?
It was a $10,000 machine, I think, and people bought them. People did who were doing like local workloads of LLM stuff, but and whatnot, and presumably my guess was I was like the majority of these are probably in Apple's data centers for Apple stuff, but if Apple Intelligence is now going to be presumably using different types of hardware, probably Google's TPUs, in Apple's data centers, who knows if they need it for that purpose. But also to Andy's point, this is just speculation. Even if they did set RAM prices with the suppliers for a certain period of time, A, that is probably going to run out at a certain point. B, might be just a look at like, okay, if we're not selling enough of these in volume and we have these RAM chips lying around, wouldn't it behoove us when we are actually in a position where we can sell things and our astronomical RAM prices look normal, to shove these chips in?
So maybe they don't have it lying around is the thing,
I mean, maybe they don't. I don't know. I'm not viewing this as they don't have it around, and maybe just we're allocating it in a different way.
Something else.
Also,
maybe they're saving it up. Yeah.
Also, I mean, there's probably a Mac Studio announcement coming.
Yeah.
And
M3 is less than M5.
It's possible that they don't want to make any more of the that they're running out of that configuration. They're like, we're just gonna make it. We're gonna take it down. We're gonna sunset that product. And
what do you think of the
worry about the
M5
Ultra?
A lot of people are saying the M5 competes well with the M3 Ultra.
Oh yeah, it's very good. It is. I mean, I only had the Pro, not the Max. The Max has twice as many GPU cores, but like, it's very. I mean, Apple keeps ratcheting up performance. Plus, they've just year to year, and then they threw in a bunch of accelerators for GPU for AI. So the AI performance in the M5 generation is very impressive. And of course, don't forget that there's supercores now in there.
Well, yeah, you made fun of that. So they took the efficiency cores and they realized people think efficiency means slow. So they've called those performance cores.
Well, I think it's more than that.
And the performance cores they're now calling supercores.
So they retroactively named the high-level cores on all M5 supercores, even if they sold them as performance cores before. I was literally writing that story on an M5 iPad Pro, and I was able to write, well, apparently I had supercores and didn't even know
all this time.
But what happened is and they're using the what they call the classic efficiency cores in the M5, but in the M5 Pro and Max, it's that lower core is a different design. And my understanding is it's more in common with performance cores than the old efficiency cores. So
it's not just a renaming. There really is a difference.
It's not. Okay. They are different cores than are in the low level of the lower of the two core sets in the M5. So it's different. The problem I have is that they renamed them.
This is the chiplet thing that we were talking about.
Well, no, this is independent from that. This is just what they decided to do on the CPU part of the M5 Pro and M5 Max. They did this new design. I think it is based on what used to be the performance core. So they called it the performance core. That's the confusing part, is they're calling the new, like the high thing is now the low thing, which is just very weird. And then the new high thing has a new name, or as I said, Batman is now Superman and Robin is now Batman, apparently.
That was the line.
It's just a little confusing. It might be Supergirl. Yeah. It's unclear. Anyway, the metaphor is not perfect, but the point is, I think they just got tired of saying, why do we call it efficiency? It sounds like it's a pair of corrective, inserts for your shoes or something. It's like, these are very powerful. And I think with this engineering change where they used a different core, that is, the idea, and they also changed the layout, right? The ratio of the high level cores to the lower level cores used to be different. And what these chips have fewer super cores and more what are now performance cores. And I think that's part of it too, is that what they want these cores that can peak when there's like an enormous need for performance from a thread, that they have the ability to provide that. But for the rest of stuff, they've got, 10 of these pretty good cores that can run in the background, multi-threaded, and be very effective without using enormous amounts of power. Because in the end, that's their goal, is power efficiency, but they can change that envelope a little bit when they know it's only going to go in pro laptops or pro systems with fans. So they don't have to worry about it quite as much in terms of the power and in terms of the thermals. So that's what they're doing. But ultimately, the reason we noticed is that in the M5 generation, there are two different kinds of lower tier CPU cores, and then they changed the name because I think they just really had a complex about the name efficiency, so they changed it.
The big deal seems to be what they're calling Fusion, which seems to be a good ploy for not necessarily. I think most of the benchmarks and reviews from like people who review CPUs have been saying, okay, M5's but we're saying about 10 to 12% faster than the M4, but again, you're not generally not upgrading year over year. It's like every 3 years. But there was a lot of positivity from engineers about the Fusion architecture. Basically, not necessarily that this is making this current generation of M5s amazingly, fantastically performant, but that this seems like a way to solve some problems that Apple and the entire industry might have had with scaling for the next 2, 3, or 4 years, because it allows you to basically bake your own cookie as opposed to being limited to whatever fab technology that you've got. You can put whatever. I'm hungry. I had a banana for breakfast and some.
Gotta bake your own cookie. No, it's by doing these chiplets or however the 2.5D or TSMC has got their own term. The idea is you're making a chip out of component parts in a way that they didn't do before. And it does mean for Apple's strategy, where they have this Pro and the Max chip that have the same CPU cores but different GPU cores, or the Max has more, that you could create a bunch of these little chiplets that are the CPU part for all the Pros and the Maxes, and you make that on the silicon wafers. You produce all of those, and then separately you produce these GPU cores, and however they do that, whether they're cutting them or whether they're doing the Pro ones and the Max ones, and then you fuse them together in this chiplet architecture. And it's really interesting for what it might mean for future other Apple Silicon chips, right? Because it means that they might be able to have even like more tiers of how many GPUs there are, and you can kind of mix and match. There are limits in terms of the interconnection, and because the memory and the GPUs and the CPUs all need to be very close together, so that they can share that pool of memory. But it potentially gives them a lot more flexibility and efficiency, right? Because they're building the little parts and then putting them together, whereas before it was all a single unit, and if there was a failure on it, you have to bin or trash the whole unit.
Apple Music is going to add tags so that you can distinguish AI music.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah,
I think that's good. I will say it's interesting. I don't remember it was on this show if we talked about it. Might have been a different podcast I was on. But the AI playlist feature, Spotify's is really good. Apple Music's, I will have to wait to see what that looks like, but I don't have my hopes up. But I do actually like having that tagging. I think that transparency is nice.
Yeah. Although you should be able to tell, but actually you can't, can you?
Yeah. It doesn't, and it only affects like new stuff they're adding to the store. The burden is on the labels. But yeah, that's going to be super important. But would it break all of our hearts if it's like nobody cares that this music that they like is completely AI generated, and that there's this farm somewhere that just posts 1,000 songs a day to cover every single bet possible. That's like,
well, that's what's on Spotify, isn't it? I mean, that's what's going on.
Some of it is, yeah. Some of it is.
Is it happening to Apple Music in the same degree?
People usually upload to both places, but because Spotify has free tier, they tend to prioritize that more. And I'll also say this, it is much easier to search and find things on Spotify than it is on Apple Music. So I don't actually know, to be completely honest with you. And I say this as somebody who uses Apple Music every single day, except on my Mac. I will not use it on the Mac. The Mac experience is so awful that I pay for Spotify Premium so that I can listen to music on my computer, which is awful. But I don't know. It's probably not as bad, but that isn't to say that the usually when people upload things, it can submit them to all the streaming services at once. So there'd be nothing to stop anyone from submitting their slop to all the places.
Speaking of AI, Apple researchers ran an A/B test on the App Store to see if AI could improve search results. Anything Apple could do to improve search results in the App Store would be beneficial. AI-generated relevance labels did improve App Store search conversions. Not a lot, 0.24%. But, that makes it, I guess, it adds up. They have a lot of users. LLM augmented users who saw results ranked using the LLM augmented model downloaded at least one app 0.24% more often than users who saw the traditional search results. Okay.
Our dark patterns are now darker. But still not a proper black because we still are Apple designers. It'll only ever be sort of a grayish sort of thing.
And Apple is apparently geo-blocking downloads and updates of ByteDance-owned apps in the U.S. So I'm sure they were doing geo-blocking of apps in China, but now they're geo-blocking Chinese-owned apps in the U.S., maybe related to the TikTok divestiture? I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that's a requirement.
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That might be the case, and I assume they've already put CapCut and TikTok and anything else.
It's part of the ban then. Okay. Apple explained that ByteDance's apps remain available for download in all other countries and regions where they are available. So they're available where they are available. However, they are not available in the United States thanks to
Remember that TikTok is being run under a different entity now. So that's how that
TikTok
got past the goalie.
Yeah. There is a security toolkit or an insecurity toolkit for hacking iPhones, possibly created by the U.S. government.
Funny how that works.
Google's threat intelligence group, there's a new and powerful exploit kit, Karuna. This, by the way, was why you got an Apple update a couple of weeks ago to block Karuna. It affected, that's why people with older iPhones got updates as well. It affected iPhone models running iOS 13 up to 17.2.1. It contained 5 full iOS exploit chains and a total of 23 exploits. This is the kind of thing nation states create to hack highly targeted individuals. So probably nothing we should worry about. Nevertheless.
Yeah, Google Threat Intelligence had a really nice blog post about it that was kind of explaining it's my favorite kinds of these warnings are where it's a combination 50-50 warning people about this threat and also admiration for how clever this threat is.
Right.
They were pointing out that it uses a hitherto unseen way of masking its JavaScript. It creates a very, very thorough fingerprint of the device and picks exactly the right exploit within a library of exploits to apply, and was some pretty bad mojo.
Yeah, no kidding. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Iannacco, Jason Snell, and Christina Warren. We're glad you're here. Especially glad if you are a Club Twit member. Thank you, Club Twit members, for making this show possible. If you're not a Club Twit member, boy, we sure would like to have you in the club. It's a great place to be. We love our Club Twit members. We've got the Discord where we can all hang out and chat and have a great time. And we do a lot of special programming in the Discord. In fact, we've got some big events coming up very soon in our Club Twit Discord. Thursday, I'm going to interview Cindy Cohen about her new book. She's the at the EFF. She's the general counsel there and has a new book that looks to be very, very interesting. So she'll be joining us. We actually had to change the time, or I had to change the time. 1 p.m. on Thursday, Pacific time. Privacy's Defender is her new book. My 30-Year Fight Against Digital Surveillance. Executive Director of EFF, Cindy Cohn, will be joining us. That's 1 p.m. If you're a club member, you can watch that in the club. We also have a coverage of the GTC keynote next Monday. We're always interested what Jensen Huang has to say, and this is going to be a particularly interesting keynote. He's already teased some new stuff that might be very interesting. Plus our AI user group every normally first Friday. I was out of town last week, so it's going to be this Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific. So we do these for the club members. We actually stream them live and we put them out a month later for everybody, for the general public. But if you're in the club, you can see all of the stuff we do in our Twit Plus feed. The club also really makes a big difference in how we do our jobs. Without the club, we would have to make severe cutbacks. It's about a third of our operating costs now. But unfortunately, it's only about 1.5% of our audience. And I would really like to get that number up. If you listen to our shows, you like our shows, and you want them to continue, the best way to do that is to invest at twit.tv/clubtwit. We would love to have you join the club. On we go. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, did you watch the F1 race on Apple TV? It was funny. I ended up watching it on the F1 TV app, which still works. I tied it to my Apple account.
Right.
Because I realized my Apple TV hadn't updated to 26. You need to have Mac TV OS 26. And for some reason, it hadn't updated. It was still on 18. Because I couldn't understand. It's like, whoa, where is it? Where is it? So, dumb me, I thought, well, maybe I need to update. And it took a couple of times. The Apple TV was not updating. I had to really force it. But once it did, it's over there on the right. Looks good, doesn't it, Jason? It's 4K.
Yeah, 4K.
Sounds Dolby audio. Surround.
HDR with 5.1 audio. And they had a bunch of, I played around with a multi-view, which looks really nice. So you can put, a driver or two or three in the window next to the broadcast. Although, even for me, I feel like the main broadcast is the thing. And I switched over to the Sky broadcast and then switched back because you can do that too. And I just, I kind of just ran through to see what it was like. And
did you try it on the Vision Pro?
I did not try it on the Vision Pro and add a fifth thing. I should do that. I've been a little busy.
You had to write all those reviews over the week.
I've been a little busy.
How many reviews did you write over the weekend?
Okay, I only wrote 2 reviews, but I also had to write, I wrote pieces in the aftermath of the event when I was flying on the plane, flying back, and then I wrote something in the airport after the briefing on the way there, and it's been a busy, and then all weekend. So I took time out to watch. But that's
Jason, you did 2 reviews for 2 one a brand new product, one granted it was an upgrade. That alone, I mean, look, and I've been on this grind. I know how the grind goes, but I'm just saying, like,
to be fair, I mean that MacBook Pro review it's 1,000 words. I got 1,000 words out of it, but it's mostly, look, a lot of these reviews, especially about products that have just had a little chip turnover, end up being kind of an essay about, like, John Gruber, bless his heart, he wrote this enormous story about the iPhone 17e. There's nothing to say about the iPhone 17e, and he wrote so much about it because,
in fact, we have said nothing about it on this show. Amazingly,
right. So what happens is it becomes an essay about what Apple is doing in that category, where they've been, where they might be going, aspects of it. Like Dan Morin did a whole section in the MacBook Air review on 6 Colors about the glyphs that they changed on the keyboard. So the US
which I like. I liked that I saw that. Also, right? I think you guys linked to a Martian Wimley's blog about how terrible the global key is on the keyboard.
The globe key. Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to 1,000 words about I spent a lot of time on the MacBook Neo story. There's no doubt about it. But I also was writing a different story that is going to not see the light of day for a couple of weeks. Before I started writing the MacBook Neo review, I used it to write a different story that I can't talk about because it'll be on someone else's site in a few weeks. It's not the Wall Street Journal again, but it's a nice site that asked me to write something for them. So I did all of that too, which is beneath the waterline, so you can't even see it. Then I get to the point where I've got about 2 hours before the embargo is going to drop on the MacBook Pro. And I think I could write something. And I wrote about 1,000 words that is kind of what we've talked about here, which is, who's this for? And the answer is, some people would rather be in the last cycle, the last model year before they change to a new car body and start again, right? They'd rather buy something that they totally know it's this modern MacBook Pro design that we've had for 5 years and have that and run that for another 10 years. And then there are the other people who are like, no, I want the first iteration of the brand new thing, even if it's weird, even if it's got things we don't know about it, I'm going to hold out. And like, that's the question is which one are you? And then I broke down the chip stuff a little bit. I had already written the thing about all the cores, so I couldn't do that. But consider that like an ancillary. And I was able in an hour and a half to do 1,000 words in a chart and get it out because, frankly, for the 5th iteration of that laptop, there isn't a lot more to say other than to talk about the chips.
But you still have to benchmark it and whatnot. So I'm trying to like praise you here because I've been on the grind that you've been on and just like Andy has, and it's a lot. But
it is a lot.
But it's rare that there are this many new things they will seed you at the same time.
So I've got a studio display here that I haven't written about at all, which I can. Well, I took some screenshots of the webcam, so
Okay,
There'll be
good.
something. But again, not a lot to say about it. I don't have the XDR. I just have the stock. And I just got the iPhone 17e. So I mean, how do I even, can I just link to Gruber's story and say, yep?
Yep.
But I think, but the truth with a lot of these, especially, you have to get creative. They force you to get creative.
Yep.
When all Apple is doing is just doing a chip update on a product that we know very well, you end up having that moment where you think, and ideally, when you're in the shower or you're just getting out of bed in the morning or whatever, you have that moment, or as you're drifting off to sleep, where you're like, oh, that's the angle I can use on that story. Because you got to get creative. You got to think big picture. You got to focus on something that intrigues you, like Dan did with the glyphs on the keyboard, because it isn't much of a story unto itself. It's more like, what story can I tell around on the occasion of the release of this product?
Sometimes it really is an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to get my readers' attention on the iPhone 17e because it is a brand new release and they're probably clicking around looking for things. There is nothing interesting to say about the phone, but I can use that attention to get them to share an opinion that maybe they would not be reading otherwise. And I imagine it's exactly the same as when you're a movie critic, where it's like, this is a movie I've seen 100 times before. There's nothing unique about it. There's nothing special about it, but it releases this week and I have to release, and it's a main release. So I have to say something about it. I know I'm going to turn it into an essay about this cute bug that I saw when I was taking a walk through three or 4 weeks ago, because they don't pay me enough times to simply write an essay about cute bugs that I see during my walks through the forest.
Yeah.
So sorry, Transformers 9 fans. That's what you're getting with this review.
About it. Anyway, I encourage people to read John Gruber's review of the iPhone 17e, because literally that's a product where I'm like, I don't know if I have anything to say about this. And then I open up Daring Fireball and it's like,
what did he find?
My God!
What did he find to say? I mean,
he has so much. He does a chart about. Okay, actually, it is. I mean, this is why he's very good at what he does. Is the 17e is interesting in part because of positioning, of like, where does that phone fit in the iPhone product line, and why do they still sell one of his points is, why do they still sell the iPhone 16? Don't buy that, right? Like, don't buy that. Why would you do that? Buy the 17e of the 17. It's, but that's what he ends up kind of going down the rabbit hole on more than anything is what's Apple. I love this stuff too. What's Apple's business strategy with the iPhone? They sell so many iPhones that in volume that it gives them the luxury to kind of like create iPhones that are targeted at market segments. And the 17e is a very particular one we've only really had now. This is the second year where they've done an annual update. So that's what he ends up spending his time on. And
this chart
again, he's a pro.
This chart is very telling because it's the only $600 iPhone. And so, I think this is, good.
I mean, it's good, but this is the challenge that I appreciate. Christina's right. It is a personality flaw to try to deflect compliments. I don't know how to take them, but I will say, this is just, I know this is super writer inside baseball, but like, this is the truth of it is sometimes it isn't a bad story. It ends up being, you're forced to think different. Oh no, I can't believe I said that about what you're writing.
you have to think
the
differently.
Neo review is easy, right? Because it's a brand new product and I can deal with all the issues. When it's a product that's not so easy, you're like, what am I going to do? And sometimes that can lead to boring reviews, but other times it can lead to good stuff about oblique things. Maybe not the bug I saw at the park, but maybe.
Maybe.
Both you and Christina seem to agree that the new studio display is not worth spending the money on.
Well, okay, I'm gonna liken it to an Apple iPhone case. So bear with me here for a second.
No, that makes sense. I see where you're going.
Right? For some people, look, because you can always buy a cheaper case than the one that comes from the Apple Store or from Apple's website. But there is an audience for whom the ease of saying click, 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 I'll buy a Mac Studio and a Mac, sure, display, yeah, that's great, and I'm gone, is like Apple wants to have that as an option because some people don't care that it costs more or that it's a little bit behind spec. First off, it's Apple. It's got all the nice things that Apple does, and they are nice displays.
They're great displays.
and they don't care. Like they it's so easy. It's right there. I can buy my Mac and I can buy this with it. It is for anyone who wants to do the work to find better value, find different options. Like you can shop and find a way better deal than the Studio Display,
And
even the new
a
one.
display that will run with something besides a Mac.
Besides a Mac, right? If you want to run a PlayStation on it or
this
something.
is my problem this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
genuinely, that's
why it
my
exists.
beef this year. That is why it exists.
You can't even run it on an Intel Mac.
Nope.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And that's the part where like this year with the displays, like I was disappointed. I ranted last week. I think that like I'm not even going to talk about the XDR. I'm not even going to get into that mess. I'm not even entertaining that sort of nonsense of spending $3,300 on something you can only use with a Mac when the big selling feature is 120 hertz, which was primarily beneficial for gaming, which is not a thing you can do on the Mac, and certainly not at the resolutions that you would need on that. Like, no, I'm not going to even entertain that. But if you like to burn money, by all means, please do it. Enjoy yourself. The new Studio Display though does bother me because I've had the old one for 4 years. It's a great display, even though it was overpriced when I bought it. It's still overpriced now. You can, there are, 4 years ago, there really weren't any alternatives on the market. There are now finally a lot of really good 5K displays. I know you reviewed the Samsung one, which was terrible, Jason, but since then,
but they're good ones now.
Acer,
what do you
Asus,
recommend? The Fuji? What do you recommend? The Fujitsu? What is it?
Acer and Asus both have some,
Acer
and I think BenQ as well for people who have like longer warranties. LG has a 6K 32-inch display if it's $2,000. But I think that Asus has one that's $1,600 for 32 inches and 6K. QCon, which is a Chinese company, basically they knocked off the Studio Display XDR look. It's going to be weird what the warranty is going to be on that, but it's glossy and it's beautiful and it works with other things. But this is just kind of my beef with the Studio Display. It's not even the price. The price, it is what it is. It is for what it is. It's the fact that before you could at least, with enough effort, get the display to work with non-Apple things.
Right.
Now you're
Not
literally
easily,
saying not easily, but you could if you had a USB 4 laptops. I had those worked fine with it. I had Thunderbolt on an AMD chip that I bought specifically the motherboard so it worked with my Studio Display. Like that kind of thing, right? Like it wasn't easy, but you can make it work. Now, okay, I have to buy this monitor, but I can only use it with my Macs, and like that just feels like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to tell people not to buy it, but I'm also going to be like, you have better options unless you just are so enamored with the aesthetics of a thing that, most of us have on an Ergotron arm and we don't look at the back of it.
Yeah. It's very Apple 2014 attitude.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty, you're locked in, but you got the money and you're going to spend it. So this is why we're making it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just, it's so limited and there are better options. And this is the thing, like, in fact, to Christina's point, when Apple abandoned the display market, what happened is the display market said, oh, I guess nobody cares about Mac users. And there were no displays that were any good for Mac users.
Indeed,
there really
that's
weren't.
exactly it.
So I would argue the most important thing about the Studio Display is that it exists because Apple is validating a market. And then everybody's like, oh man, we can undercut Apple. And they have. And now you can do those shopping. So I'm glad it exists. I'm glad they still do it. I wish, like, people are harping on them using the same panel for 10 years. It's a good panel. Yeah. I don't want to, 5K, like, I would take higher resolution or higher refresh rate. I don't need it. I don't actually personally want a bigger display than 27. It works for me really well. But the fact that when my kid came home for the summer, he couldn't hook up his PlayStation to the extra Studio Display that I had in the house, it's just so frustrating.
Or your Switch or Steam Deck or anything.
Yeah.
So the idea that you could do something like lower the price or now that it's been out there for a while, but be that as Apple's being Apple, they will sell a certain number of these. Somebody was saying, that's a lot of money to overspend on being lazy, but like that is the name of the game. For some people, a few extra $100 for the convenience of not having to do shopping for a display from somebody that isn't Apple at the Apple Store is nothing. And that's who this laptop or this display is for. But for everybody else, if you're watching MacBreak Weekly, I would strongly encourage you to look at the other options out there, because there are now options that are appropriate sizes with appropriate dots per inch that will work as external Mac displays that are as good or better than Apple's display for a lot less money. And that's why I want Apple to keep making displays, because as long as Apple makes a display, the display industry will try to undercut them on price, and that's great for us if you want to do the shopping.
Like I said last week, I think that Apple makes a Magic Mouse, and they make it like that because they know there's a lot of competition, and people who want a normal mouse for a normal price can go absolutely anywhere and get it. They may as well make one that is very, very Apple-y for fans of Apple design, and like Jason said, for people who just want, okay, click, 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 boom, ship, I'll have it tomorrow. And I think I've always thought that the displays were in that exact same category.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like an iPhone case. I'm just shocker for people who buy an Apple iPhone case every year. Lots of companies make cases, and like some of them are as good as Apple's, and they're like half the price. Or Apple Watch bands, and like, and
some of them are even made out of cow. It's awesome. Try it.
It's true. My wife's iPhone case is a leather case now, and it's like, oh, they'd still do that. It's like, well, not Apple, but everybody else does. So yeah, it's like, it's perfectly reasonable, but you just have to know, if you want to be a savvy shopper, that the Studio Display, even the brand new one that just came out, it's a bad deal. It was a bad deal last week, and the new one is still a bad deal. It's just a bad deal with a better webcam. So whatever.
A better webcam, and you can't use it with any of your older Macs. I think that's the only thing that really does kind of bother me.
Chain it. Daisy chaining is nice, but like, whatever.
You can see your own regret in remarkable clarity.
Yeah,
12 megapixels.
Exactly. And look, I'm glad the webcam is at least apparently not garbage now, which great. I think
about all I would say is there are better webcams available.
Well, I was going to say, the irony was, I think, and I made the justification when I bought the Mac Studio display, literally the second it went for pre-order, and I had an ultra-fine 5K. So that was dumb of me in some ways, but I was like, I've waited for this. I want this. I'll get it. I sold my ultra-fine actually, and it was fine. But I was like, I know this webcam's going to suck. I'm just going to use an external. That's not a big deal. And I think most people who, if you're going to overspend 4 years ago, you'll just buy a new webcam.
Now. Yep.
Again, and I get it. They're getting rid of Intel, blah, blah, blah. That is just my one sticking point, because even though I have two 32-inch 6K monitors that I love, and it has Thunderbolt 5 and it has a KVM, switch, and it's great. It's not as bright, but it's very nice. I would buy another one. I would, just for other purposes. But if I can't even use it with my older Macs, because I would put it in the kitchen or something. But if I can't do that, I'd replace the one on my desk and then put the one on my desk in another room. But I don't know. That just, it feels defeatist to just be like, we literally are going to make this impossible for you to get any more value out of this very expensive display.
I would like to, and somebody out there might be doing this, but I haven't found it yet. I know there are lots of display review sites and YouTube channels out there, but they tend not to be Mac focused. And this is one of those moments. I said this on another podcast last week. I want to mention it here. This is when I really miss, not all the other stuff. This is when I really miss being the editor of Macworld.
Yes, because you could test them all, call them all in.
We would buy or order, depending on whether we could get them, all of the good, appropriate Mac displays, and we would review them all together, and we would come up with answers. And the problem is, we have this conversation, and then people say, like Leo did earlier, well, what are the good ones? And we kind of don't know, because there are sites that review them that you can find good ones, but that's not necessarily, are they good with the Mac?
Exactly. No, and there's like a Mac rumors thread, and that's probably the best source of information, genuinely, for the 5K displays and for and for the 6Ks.
Right. But those people all bought them individually, what you really want is to have them in a room together.
I agree with you. And then it's funny because some of those people will do their own video reviews and whatnot. And I haven't been able to, but I've been asked to do the review of the LG Ultrafine 6K, and I will do one. But even in my setup, and I know how to properly calibrate and do whatnot, I don't have the sort of testing environment that I could dedicate to that. Yeah. But in a perfect world, I'm with you, Jason. I would totally love to either have access to a YouTube channel or something else where it's we can call all these in, order them, and do a proper shootout. Like that would
if that does exist, people should write in and let us know, because I know that like Artings is out there and does great TV reviews. I'm sure there are sites that are super display focused.
Artings did, because it was upvoted enough by the people who pay them, a 5K, I think, for the Asus a couple months ago.
But the question is, how is it as a Mac display? Because there are a lot of PC displays out there that are like 5K, but they're like 30 inches.
Exactly. Right. They don't understand. Well, no, this was like a proper like 5K 27-inch like Mac.
It's the
Mac
six
display.
best monitors for MacBook Pro and MacBook Air. Thank you, Scooter X on Artings.
Artings is good, so maybe that's the answer.
It's good, but the problem is that.
By the way, they liked the Studio Display.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that they ended up saying, well, Apple makes this display, you could just use that, and I'm like, really?
Well, okay. So they reviewed the ProArt. That was the one that I was thinking of, the Asus ProArt display, which is a good price display. The problem with most of these list sites, again, because they're not made by Mac users, and Jason knows this far better than I do, it's that we are particular, and not all of us, but some of us, we have been so ingrained in what Retina means and pixel doubling that we will not. At least my eyes, like I can't look at a non-like Apple display, right? There are way better 4K monitors out there that have higher refresh rates and whatnot. That's great for gaming. I can use that with the PC. I wish that Apple supported fractional scaling better as well, but they don't. And so we have 5K and 6K panels are our options in 27 inches and 32 inches. Those are our options, and that's it. And unfortunately, then you have like to look through, okay, so who are the mainstream people making them? I think the good news for the people listening to this or watching this podcast is that the 5K panels, the 6K ones are getting there too, but the 5K panels, the proper like 27-inch 5K panels are finally now, I think, have hit like the mainstream enough that there are at least 4 manufacturers who make them.
That panel is ubiquitous at this point, which is great, because it's no longer. It was rare when it started in the 5K iMac, but now it's everywhere. They had to make it's 10 years later.
Exactly. Now you can finally find a lot of them. Because we saw that with what was it? I guess the Cinema display and the Thunderbolt display. That was a 1440p panel. That towards the end of its life, you did start to see a lot of them on way cheaper, like mono price, or someone there were a lot of like lower end, I guess Asian manufacturers. I'm not gonna say lower end, but much cheaper ways that you could get that same panel in a different form factor. We've finally seen that with 5K. 6K is a little more complicated. The panel that Apple used in the Pro Display XDR RIP was never replicated. There was one that Dell used. There's now a different one that LG has. There's one that's slightly different that some other folks use. So there's variance there. But the 5K, if that's what you want, 27 inches, there are options that that you can daisy chain, that you can have one plug in with Thunderbolt, that also have HDMI and display ports.
Imagine. HDMI. Yeah, so this Artings story I have read, and the reason that it made me think I wish somebody else would do this is their number one choice is the Studio Display, which, but also you've given up. Their second choice is a Dell monitor where they say, well, it has a lower resolution because it's a 4K 27 or whatever.
Right,
I'm like,
we don't want that.
That's not acceptable. That's not a best for a Mac at all, period. Then the ProArt display, which again, I've heard positive things about the Asus ProArt displays, but like it's just really disappointing because nothing says I don't get it more than, well, why don't you buy this 30-inch 4K display? It's like, no, that is not the Retina resolution to which I am accustomed. I'm not interested in that. So but that you're right. If you look for a 5K 27-inch display, you will find a bunch, and they will all be cheaper than the Apple display.
We are going to have David Pogue on the show March 31st. Yesterday was David's birthday. Today, his massive tome came out, and one Jason Snell's reviewed it at the Wall Street Journal. Reinvention Incorporated, you call it.
Well, that was the headline. I was surprised as everyone else when I saw the headline to my story. I didn't write a headline or a subhead, but I did write the story.
Jason.
The words in there are mine.
The book is not called that. It's called Apple: The First 50 Years.
Yes.
608 pages. So
it's big. It's a big one. I said, I read it on my vacation. It was a surprise query from the Wall Street Journal. I said yes, and then I read a 500, 600-page book on my vacation. Beach reading. It is great. It is.
Don't get sand in it though.
It was a PDF on an iPad, so it was fun.
Oh, okay. It looks like the physical book looks like really nice.
Here's the concept. It's a biography of Apple. so many tech stories are either about products or they're about people. And this is about a company. It is about Apple. And for those who do not know, David was a writer and columnist for Macworld for years. And then he went to the New York Times and was their personal tech columnist. And recently he does PBS Nova stuff. Now he does CBS Sunday Morning stuff. He had a whole line of books called the Missing Manual books. You may have bought some of them. And now he's got this book. David has a really great, as somebody who edited some of his features back at Macworld, really breezy style, really friendly, picks the right level. It's an easy read. And he very clearly set out to write the definitive history of Apple as a company for 50 years. Some of the stories will be familiar. One of the effects that I noticed in the book is that the longer ago it was, the more stories have been collected in various books and interviews over time. And as you move to the present, when he's talking about the last 10 or 15 years, there's not a lot there. Apple, he tries, but like Apple supplied him with interviews, which is amazing. He said he told me he did like 2 or 3 days of interviews at Apple Park for the book, which is unheard of that Apple would cooperate with something like this. But all those people have media training. All those people are not telling secret stories out of school. They are sticking to the basics. And as a result, like there's no good dirt from the last 15 years. There just isn't. I think the high point of the book is the middle, which is around the iPhone and the iPod, because those people have all started to retire, started to leave the industry. So there is some good background stuff in there where you get to see like Ken Kashenda's book, and Ken Kashenda is in this book talking about making the iPhone keyboard, which is an amazing story. And there's a great story in there about how John Rubinstein and Jeff Williams went to Hitachi and or was it Toshiba? And they just went there to say hi on a tour of Japan. And they're like, we got this little hard drive. We don't know what to do with it. And they just look at each other and they're like, we'll buy all of them. And that was how the iPod came to be, and Apple bought them all. So no one else could even make a music player with that hard drive for some period of time because they bought all of them. David refers to it as a hard drive the size of an Oreo, which is not wrong. It's a fun book. If you're an Apple fan, you may have heard a lot of these stories before, although I think at this point there are so many people interested in Apple who know it from like the iPhone era forward that they may be surprised to read about the Apple II and the original Mac and some of those classic stories. So I think it's really good. And I think that now if somebody said, because there's been so many books about Apple, is there a definitive book? What is the definitive book about the history of Apple? This is the answer. This is the definitive book about the history of Apple, even though in 15 or 20 years, somebody will write a better history of 2010s and 2020s Apple, because just those people aren't willing to squeal yet. But it's really good and really well done, and lots of pictures and some really great stories. And he did do a bunch of original interviews, not just at Apple Park. He talked to a bunch of the old guard. He said that a bunch of people have died since he interviewed them for the book, because he really, like Bill Atkinson, for example. So he's got those voices in the book, which is really great. So yeah, it's for anybody who's watching MacBreak Weekly, you should probably get this book, is what I'm saying.
I hate to make you cringe, Jason, but I also want to really recommend your Wall Street Journal review, because it is in and of itself really nice overview of here's what was going, here's the history of Apple, not within this book, but here is my telling of the history of Apple that I relived by reading this book. Yeah. I thought I'm a big fan of your writing, and I think this is one of the best things you've written. I have a folder on Google Drive of things I enjoyed reading on the web, so that I can just simply open up this directory and find great things to read. That was such a quick save, because I think it's one of the nicest things you've ever written.
Came out March 6th in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, it's on their website. And if you're an Apple News person, you can get it on Apple News.
That's right. Yeah. And we should mention again that the day before Apple's 50th birthday, David will be joining us on that MacBreak Weekly on March 31st.
Right. I talked to him for about an hour yesterday on his birthday. I didn't even know. That'll be on Upgrade this month. He's making the rounds. When I talked to him, he said, "Yeah, I'm about to leave on a 3-week-long book tour." Oh,
yeah. That poor guy.
Good luck.
He'll be exhausted by the time he gets to us.
Yeah. He's interviewing Phil Schiller at South by Southwest too.
He is.
So that's
going to be fun.
Okay,
right?
well, that's amazing that Apple is like putting somebody at South by Southwest, and B, that's a great pairing for both of them, right? For them to promote the 50th anniversary, book promo, talk about other stuff. That's great.
He was also on CBS this morning, yesterday, with a long interview with Tim Cook and Woz. CBS put the extended interview with Tim Cook on there, which is
on their YouTube channel. Yeah,
exactly. It's not as though Tim was like laying bare, like, oh, well, here's what we're doing next year, and here's what we really screwed up 2 years ago. But I thought it was a more thoughtful version, an introspective version of Tim that we've ever seen. He was not under the usual mode of I've got marketing people in a little earpiece in my ear giving me high signs and low signs about what's being asked. I thought it was really good.
So funny, I will tease this from the Upgrade interview, which will be up in a couple of weeks. But I said to David, a couple of weeks ago, there was this report about how Tim said, yeah, it's our 50th anniversary and we are going to do some stuff. And I said, David, you went to them with this book and said, I would like to interview a bunch of people because I'm doing this book. And that happened last year, right? Book deadlines, he was working way in advance.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah. And they basically weren't interested. And then they came back to him and said that they would do it. And I said, do you think you're the one who was like the canary in the coal mine who warned them? And he said, maybe, because that's my theory is David Pogue, middle of last year, maybe beginning of last year, approached Apple and said, your 50th anniversary is in 2026. I'm writing a giant book. It's going to be 600 pages long. He said he had to cut like a third of it. They don't make books that big anymore. It's still huge. And I think they went, oh no, what are we going to do? It is our 50th anniversary next year. He's only the first person to ask. More people are going to keep asking, and it's going to rise to a crescendo in March of 2026. What's our strategy? And I think David kind of created his access by reminding them that they needed to have a strategy for the 50th anniversary, and that when they decided that they would, one of the things they agreed to do was furnish some people to talk to David, which is great. But like, I really believe that David Pogue is the one who reminded Apple, hey, next year everybody's going to want to talk about the 50th anniversary of Apple, right?
No,
what?
I would totally believe you. And I would think that because typically Apple is kind of adverse about celebrating, anniversaries and things like that, 20th anniversary Macintosh notwithstanding, like they don't tend to make a big deal about that. But if someone like David Pogue, who even if he doesn't have, based on your review, access for whatever reasons, more of the, modern, like last like 10, 15 years of folks, it goes back so far with people at Apple, and people know him, like people who know David Pogue, like as a Mac guy first and foremost, right?
For sure.
Like, so if he's going to approach you and kind of bring this up, you might be thinking, okay, we probably do need to do something about this because 50 years is a big deal. And if we do want to partner with anyone, this is the person that we should, seed executives to and help,
And
tell
let them
part
look
of the story
at our archive, which they did apparently.
Well, that's amazing in and of itself. My book is not here yet. It arrives sometime today, but I'm gonna have to have help like carrying it upstairs.
Yeah,
I think, because it's gonna be so heavy.
Yeah,
600 pages. Which, wow.
I don't know if I can get David to bring his keyboard with him. It'd be great if he could play some of those wonderful songs that he writes. He was a Broadway pianist, musician in the Broadway pits, and
Stephen Sondheim's personal Mac advisor.
Exactly. Sondheim said, hey, David, help me. This Mac thing, help me figure it out.
Yeah.
And it all started there. It'll be a lot of fun to talk to Dave on March 31st.
That's our big blowout 50th anniversary spectacular.
It's our special 50th anniversary show. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, man. Black tie.
For sure. We all got to come in our Apple best.
Or
rainbows.
I'll wear a black tie or
whatever.
Rainbow tie.
Actually, the rainbow tie is probably the right way to do it. Yeah, okay. Rainbow tie.
Okay. Does it have to spin? We're going to take a break and come back. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Our picks of the week coming up next. So glad to have Christina Warren with us, Mr. Andy Anako, and Mr. Snell, who is the founder of sixcolors.com and has been writing about Apple since
Wall Street Journal biography.
I like it that they call you Mr. Snell.
I had to call him Mr. Pogue throughout, too. It's a style thing.
I love it. It's like the New York Times. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's get the picks of the week here. You want to start us off, Christina Warren?
Sure will. Okay, so this is actually a fun little game that my friend Keith created. So Keith is somebody who I used to work with, and he now works at Mozilla. And he created a game called What's My JND, which means basically it's just necessary difference. And so basically when you're doing
just
CSS,
noticeable. It says just noticeable.
Just noticeable difference. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Just noticeable difference. And so the idea is that when you're doing things for color theory with CSS, he has a whole great blog post about it. You need to figure out what level there's a difference between colors. So to kind of showcase this, he created this game. And basically, it actually works really well on Apple displays, I have to say.
I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to click where the color changes?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
And as you get further in, there are 40 rounds, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And I think that I have the best ratio so far, which is 0.0018. And I think that's anything under 0.003 is usually like what they say is kind of like the way that it can go. The brighter your display is, the better the panel uniformity it is going to make this better. But this is just a fun game. The blog
Jason would be very bad at this, is what you're saying.
Well, it might be. Well, actually, this is an interesting thing to see. I would be curious to know how this is with colorblind stuff. And that's the thing that actually Keith maybe should like make a colorblind.
And why is this important in browsers?
Well, part of it actually is part of it is actually accessibility, right? So the idea is making sure that if your colors are too similar, you aren't differentiating enough. And then part of it too is like figuring out, okay, when do I need what level of dithering and like other sorts of stuff do I need to do in my design with my CSS? Like how deep do I need to go in a color profile for these things? Because the issue is web browsers don't display colors accurately across all their different systems.
I should probably not be using Firefox. Oh no, he works for Firefox.
Oh no, he works for Firefox. Yeah. So that's kind of part of what it talks about in his article, which is linked on the main page of the game, is that it kind of talks about, which is called too much color. He's like, how do you tell if two colors look the same? And turns out there's like a way that you can figure that out. And what do you do with this? What are the levels looking like? What optimal process do you need to apply? And why do you need to do this? Because your browser doesn't. So anyway, it's a good read, but the reading aside and the nerdiness aside, the game is just really fun to see like how
it's really hard. I'm not even halfway through.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right. And I can see yours. I can see where the line is right now, but
you can see it. Oh yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
I can.
But the problem is if you stare at it too long, if you're going through, because again, it's 40 rounds, like you have, at least I did, I had to like blink like multiple times.
Yeah. Because this one I have no idea. Jason probably could see this
because your eyes just get kind of blurred with it. But anyway, Keith released this in his blog post today, but he showed it to some of us yesterday, and I probably spent like 45 minutes playing with it. So I was like, I want to share this because this is just a really addictive, fun game.
Okay. Okay. And you can find it at, you'll just have to go to MacBreak Weekly Picks or something. KeithCircle.co.uk/what's-my-JND.
Just Google what's my JND.
There you go. There you go. Okay.
I'll see if he should probably come up with a better URL than that, but yeah, just Google what's my JND.
Andy has a book to pick.
Yes, my next read is definitely going to be Pogue's History of Apple, but there's another 500-page, incredibly important tome about the history of the past several decades. It is, of course, Liza Minnelli's memoir, Kids, Wait Till You Hear This. 448 pages, released today. I'm excited about it chiefly because there's been some excerpts on People magazine. And
is she still with us?
Yes.
She's still with us.
She's outlived so many people. It's amazing. Like there's a whole website about who Liza's outlived. It's great.
She was great in Arrested Development, but that's the last time I saw her.
It's great. And so apparently he's been her best friend of
has told to Michael Feinstein.
So basically she's been talking.
Weird.
He started collecting her like stories for like the past 10 years with the intention of eventually doing a book. When I say that the first passage that I read in the excerpt from People magazine was her telling this story about about the time she was walking in New York City with her husband, and Martin Scorsese started laying into her because Liza did not show up for a date that they had. And she ends the story by saying,
she was in his movie New York, New York with Robert De Niro.
Yeah, exactly. So basically there are at least two stories involved. I was with my husband, and what my boyfriend caught us, and I also was engaged to another person at that same time. And I'm like, oh my God, beach weather cannot come early enough. I need this in hardcover because I'm going to read this at the beach.
Although, if you marry Liza Minnelli, you probably have some idea what you're getting
you figure out that, this is an e-ticket ride. This is a dark ride. Make sure that the harness is like fully locked in before the ride goes into motion.
Wow.
I feel as though this is not a memoir that's going to underdeliver in any way, shape, or form.
Yes. Very good. Good pick. Liza Minnelli's new book comes out today. And what's the name of it again?
Kids, wait till you hear this. I want to do the voice, but I can't do the voice.
That's Liza with a Z, not Liza with an S, just so you know.
Just so you know.
Mr. Jason Snell, your pick of the week.
Well, I've got a little bonus pick, which is eat your citrus. It's good for you. Vitamin
Lemons
C.
and
it's
limes.
Very good. I've got an orange and a lemon in my hands for the video people. The smell of it. This is my photogenic lemon that I used in that video.
That's the original. Ooh, you could auction that off.
So Quinn Nelson, who is a YouTuber behind Snazzy Labs, he's a great guy, and it's a great channel you should subscribe to. And he's a longtime Apple person. He is critical and skeptical and all those things, but he also gets us because he's one of us. He has started a side business called Copeland Supply, and that reference is intentional. If you know, you know. And he's released a bunch of things. He made these custom Cherry compatible keycaps that you can buy that are like little tiny iMacs in all the different G3 iMacs in all the different colors that are amazing. But the pick I'm going to make, because remember there was that whole thing about how Apple started to sell a polishing cloth.
They still do.
And they still
and they
do.
Update its compatibility every time a new product comes out.
Well, Quinn was like, I bet I could make one bigger and cheaper. And that's why he created for $18 the Cloth Pro Max, which I have here with me.
Nice.
It is a beautiful polishing cloth for your devices. It's $18. Quinn is a very smart man, and he sweats the details on all of these products. And as I have a bunch of friends who have gone from being computer nerds to having to build physical products, it's so hard when there are atoms involved, people. Yeah. It's so hard. But he did it. And Cloth Pro Max, it's really nice. So this is like my big go-to, clean that studio display, whatever you need to do. But I also just recommend going to Copeland.supply because you will see the keycaps and the other stuff that he sells there. But my pick, I'm doing it. $18 Cloth Pro Max from Copeland Supply.
Jason, I do need to ask, is the side of the cloth you don't see just as nice as the side of the cloth that you actually polish with?
No matter how you fold it, Andy, it's always a good side.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my endorsement of the Cloth Pro Max. It's very nice.
For those of us who've been around long enough to remember Bill Atkinson's amazing HyperCard, may remember some of the art bits that came with HyperCard. Well, now the art bits can once again be yours, all of them collected and downloadable, suitable for, your notes, anything. These are, I don't know if Susan Kerr did these, or probably. It looks like her style. These are beautiful pixel art. They're not icons, they're graphics. They're not.
It's like clip art, kind of.
Kind of like, we remember clip art? Yeah. Look at this.
And a lot of these are hand-drawn. Like some of these are clearly like early stage scanning when scanners cost $80,000, but cleaned up. But a lot of them are people just basically placing pixels where they need to be and removing them from where they shouldn't be.
Look at this one.
God, that give me flashbacks to like just as a source of free clip art, HyperCard was a major release for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, now,
honestly, that was my first introduction to it in elementary school in the 90s, was that it was like a place that you could, get. I guess by that point it was in color, but this is wild.
There are some color ones in here as well. Art bits from HyperCard. It's in the website, which even the website is kind of looks archives.somnolescent.net. I don't know how I found this, but I just thought this was really cool from the junk pile.
I love low resolution handmade pixel art. Even modern stuff where it's like color pixel art. There's just a vibe to it and an intention that I love.
Yeah, 700.
So I'm feeling a lot of things right now.
700 things. They are pings, so you can download them and use them. They're even transparent. That's it for MacBreak Weekly for this fine day. Thanks again to Micah Sargent for running the show last week. I'm sorry I missed it, but I'm glad I'm here this week. I'll be back next week, and I think I'm going to miss another one. And Jason, you're going to miss one but you're going to be here for David's interview on the end of the month, I think. Right?
I believe I am. Yes,
I hope so. Yeah, I think I'm going to miss the week before.
I've got
the 24th.
I've got a spring break trip there, but
Yes.
I don't know. I think I'm on. I think I'm on now for a while. I think I've passed my weird time in my life, and that's good. Now I can just settle in and
past his weird time in life.
It's been a weird 2026, man. Let me tell you. But more on that later as the other weird thing. Wall Street Journal is but one of the weird things that happened to me that have set up things. But I think I'm here for the duration now, so this should be good.
Well, that's awesome. That's a great byline to have. Christina Warren, wonderful to have you. She is a developer relations queen at GitHub. At film _girl everywhere else. Wonderful to see you again. Glad your health is good and you're feeling fine. And put some batteries in that Teddy Ruxpin. And
I know that's going to have to be a DIY project or something to try to. Oh my gosh! I should totally make it one of those creepy LLM toys that they were selling at the ChatGPT thing. I should totally do that, but
you should try drinking cyanide.
Exactly. That would actually be a fun DIY project.
I like it. Andy Anatko from the home of Andy Anatko. Thank you so much, my friend. Great to see you.
Cheers.
Thanks to all of you for joining us. A special thanks to our Club Twit members for making this show possible. twit.tv/clubtwit. If you're not a member, we want you. We need you. We want you. We do the show every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We have gone to summertime, so it's now 1800 UTC. You will find us live on YouTube, Twitch, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. And, of course, in the Club Twit Discord. But after the fact, you can also find us on YouTube. There's video there. Great for sharing clips of the show with friends if you want to do that. We also, of course, have shows at our website, audio and video, twit.tv/MBW. Best thing to know, subscribe in your favorite podcast client. That way you'll get it automatically the minute it's available. And if you can, leave us a good review. Give us a 5-star review. Help spread the word about the nation's premier Vision Pro podcast, now with less Vision Pro. We didn't have anything this week. Nothing at all. Sorry.
It only underscores our integrity to the quality, maintaining the quality of this feature, that we do not speak if there's nothing to say.
If there's nothing to say.
Speaks well of us.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. And now it is my sad and solemn duty to tell you, get back to work, because break time is over. Bye-bye.